your life is in each other's hands. I think that's why we get along so well. I think that's why we've been able to develop the confidence in each other.
I see it in your eyes, the hesitation. You can't let fear survive. The world needs saving, so push your doubts aside. Don't be complacent. This is your chance to rise. You've got to take it.
What time I am afraid, I will trust in thee. In God I will praise his word. In God I put my trust.
Engines on. 5, 4, 3, 2. All engines running.
You're only getting braver, braver, braver. Steady on till you scare the fear away. You're only getting braver, you're only getting braver. With each and every stride, you're growing stronger. The dark is taking flight. So don't you falter, you'll overcome in time. Keep pressing onward, you've only gotta fight a little longer. Take that step, you can There's gonna be some danger, danger, danger. You're only getting braver, braver, braver. Steady on till you scare the fear away. You're only getting braver, you're only getting braver.
This is really a rugged planet.
You're getting braver.
Charlie, it might sound corny, but the view is really out of this world.
You're getting braver.
Be strong and of a good courage.
You're getting braver.
Okay, the guidance is coming in. Looks good.
The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness.
Well, hello and welcome to Idol Killer, a ministry dedicated to destroying sacred cows for the cause of Christ. I'm your host, Warren McGrew, and joining me for this debate review, if we can call it a debate review, it's more of opening statements review. Spoiler alerts ahead. But joining me, the infamous Chris Fisher.
Infamous indeed. This is going to be a good night. This debate, when I first saw it, I was overjoyed. It warmed into my heart. It's a true Chris Fisher approved 2 thumbs up debate.
Yeah, I was told about the debate thanks to you. I think you had messaged us in a group chat we're a member of, and I saw it and I go, oh, it's a Dillahunty debate. Like I'm, all right, I'll watch this. Okay. And I put it in or turn it on and I'm watching it, and he's got his arguments and I'm going, okay, all right. This is kind of standard Matt Dillahunty fare. And then Andrew gets on. I'm not familiar with Andrew at all. And I was like, what's happening here? And then events unfolded, and I don't know if the viewers are aware or not, but Matt was so incensed at Andrew's opening that he just got up and left with a few choice words. And so I thought, well, this will be an easy debate for us to review because it's really just it's not even really a debate. It's just he gave his opening, he gave his opening. They did some pot shots against each other as he was heading to the door, and
it's because this Andrew guy, I think before the debate started, he got the debate framed in such a way which is an obvious advantage. And the question of the debate was, is Christianity or secularism better for society as a whole? Something along those lines.
Yes, and which has a best ethical foundation, I believe is yeah.
Right. And so he could even grant that Christianity is not true. And if Christianity, the results of Christianity lead to better societal outcomes, he wins the debate. And so he was able to confront Dillahunty on widespread degeneracy, the lying, the surveillance state, the mass propaganda, the entire leftist dystopia that we live in. And Dillahunty did not want that debate. He couldn't have that debate. He can't be faced with his degeneracy. He stood up and fled. He ran away. He wasn't winning that debate. He didn't have any arguments. He'd have to defend the current dystopia to people who know better, people who know what it was like 20 years ago. They're not going to be fooled by him saying that this is the better society that they've had 20 years, 60 years to shape. This is not the better society.
No, I mean, you know, I tell my kids about what it was like when I was growing up, and they're like, really, Dad? It's almost like I'm telling them a fairy tale, you know? They can't believe the world was like that. But I think Andrew, I mean, he approached this debate not as a Christian apologist, but as more of like a political commentator. You know, I mean, I was listening to him a little while ago, and he said, I'm not a Christian apologist, you know, and he's dropping F-bombs and swear words and smoking like a chimney, cursing like a sailor. And, you know, and he came into this with his own unique kind of set of views. He wasn't coming in towing the Christian apologetic industrial complex line. You know, he was there making some points. And I think it unnerved and upset Dillahunty, obviously. But do you have anything you want to add before we jump into
that is the strategy. Here's the thing. America is sick of these people. We know who these people are. And so when they're confronted with their deeds and the results of their ideology, they can't argue. That it's not a debate anymore. What they want is some sort of abstract philosophical debate about the philosophical merits of Christianity and secularism. But when it comes down to the tried and true history, the results that we see, the massive prosperity of civilization in the United States over the last 200 years and a rapid decline that everyone's experienced. Yeah, that when facts meet reality, they run. And that's what Andrew was pressing about. He's saying, these are the facts. I'm saying just truth. You can't get up there and say that a woman is a woman and a man is a man. You'll be shouted down and canceled. This is the end result of secularism, just a mass brainwashing, a cancel culture, destroying people's lives over propagating untruth. This is the result of his theology, his worldview, his what are we calling these? There's conflicts of worldviews. There's the book, and he has the secular humanism religion. That's the result of his religion.
Yeah, I mean, you can judge a tree by its fruits, so to speak, and we're seeing, you know, the decline of society based off of abandoning this Judeo-Christian foundation upon which the nation was largely built. I mean, not perfectly, right? Nobody's making that argument.
I did pull up some stats in preparation for tonight, just because there are some metrics in which it looks better. Okay. But you look at other metrics, we are less happy. That, you know, when happiness peaked, self-reported happiness. Try to guess. Self-reported happiness peaked.
1963.
No,
I have no idea.
The 60s were a happy time.
I have no idea.
There were like 200 bombings in 1 year in the 60s. Black Panther radicals, race riots in the 60s. when did it peak? It corresponds with the rise of emo girls and scene girls, the 90s,
Oh,
as
really?
happiness peak.
Wow.
And yeah, that's my memories. That's like, that was a happy time before the Twin Towers fell, before endless foreign adventurism. Those were the golden years in my lifetime, right? And I don't think it's just nostalgia. I think the data shows that out. But also, if you look at things like childless rates, they're sky high. If you look at single mothers past their 30s, they're at record levels. The use of antidepressants is off the charts, and the people being diagnosed with mental illness, it just keeps going up and up and up. We're not
The
a
numbers would have
healthy
been higher
society.
had we not changed some of those metrics for determining that as well.
Right. And so this is not the happy society. We're not being led into human flourishing. People are rejected. They feel sad. Young men are killing themselves in record numbers. The suicides, inflation is out of control. We're at a low point for people being able to afford houses on their salaries. Our money's not worth as much as it used to be. You used to be able to work for minimum wage and buy 6 Big Macs, and now it's just like 1 or 2 for like 8 to 14, maybe $14 for a Big Mac meal, and that's an entire hour of your labor. It used to be, you could buy like 6 of them for an hour of your labor. That
I was
purchasing
discussing that
power,
with my children recently, just how the dollar has lost its buying power and its scarcity, and now it takes more dollars. And I was trying to explain to them how we continue to print those out, devalue the currency, go into more and more debt. It's not easy things to explain to a 9-year-old,
right?
but they seem to get it better than the people in Washington.
When I first started in the labor market, I'd buy 24 packs of Coke for 24 packs of Coke for $5. Now it's $12 or $18 for a 24 pack, just within my lifetime. This is how I gauge inflation personally, because that's a common staple of what I buy, like pop or soda if you're from anywhere other than the Midwest.
I'm from Atlanta, so everything here is Coke.
Yeah, everything's Coke.
Yeah, everything's
Okay,
Coke.
well, I
Yeah.
guess Coke works then.
You want a Coke?
But
Yeah, give me a Pepsi.
right. And so there are metrics. We are living richer, longer lives in general. There's ups and downs. Crime is at a maybe 20-year high, something like that. Race riots. We had the Summer of Love, in which entire cities were burned down due to deteriorating race relations. Those are at the lowest points ever. There's a lot of social contagion, and it's all the result of this secular liberalism. Anyways, I don't want to stall the debate too much, but I think he has some valid points. And if that's the angle to attack these atheists, the practical results of their worldview, that's a good way to do that.
Yeah, no, and you're going to see the results of this. It does definitely frustrate Dillahunty to no end here. I'm going to go ahead and bring him up, and we'll get this started, because it's about an hour-long video. But again, they're just going to give their openings. We're going to address those as we go.
If you want to skip Dillahunty's, you can. Unless there's like a super relevant things you want to talk about.
No, let's skip Dillahunty. I mean, we've heard most of those arguments before.
There is no list of thou shalt not or thou shalts, because we recognize that nearly every attempt at such a list.
All right. Thank you so much for your introductory
All right.
statement. We're going to hand it over to Andrew Wilson for 10 minutes. So thank you for being here, Andrew, and the floor is yours.
You're welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew Wilson. I am the host of the one and only Crucible, the fastest growing debate channel on the internet. James, I just in case you didn't know. Appreciate that very much. Appreciate everybody being here. All of you are way too stodgy in this room. Very low energy. Just wanted to let all of you know that. Ladies and gentlemen of all pronouns, the these, the zers, the hims, and hers.
The audience is filled with Dillahunty supporters. These people have turned out in numbers to watch their idol, and he's saying you guys are low energy. And we'll see in the Q&A when these people get up to talk, like they look like their ideology. It's physiognomy. People tend to take on characteristics of their worldview. And so the primary promoters of atheism are people like Aaron Ra, who and it looks like they lead very nasty lives, and you'll kind of see that in the audience. This is a dig that he just took at that audience. So he knows what he's doing, and he plays coy in the Q&A.
Well, it's a great way. I think it's a great way to start the debate is to jab the audience. It definitely is going to get people on their toes and wake them up a little bit.
This growing debate channel on the internet, James. I just in case you didn't know. Appreciate that very much. Appreciate everybody being here. All of you are way too stodgy in this room. Very low energy. Just want to let all of you know that. Ladies and gentlemen of all pronouns, the Z's, the Zers, the hims, and hers, I would like to thank you for tuning in today for this exciting in-person conference.
He's mocking them.
It's
fantastic.
My name is Andrew Wilson. There's a few ways this debate can go. The topic is Christian ethics versus secular humanism, which has a better foundation. The funny thing is, I already won that topic because, as Matt explained to Jay Dyer, he has no justification under the skeptical belief structure to give an accounting for any meta-ethical presupposition he may have. He just kind of grants himself stuff. He grants himself logic, he grants himself reason, he grants himself an entire worldview, even though he's using an unjustified starting position for it. So I'm not honestly all that interested in doing the God not real dough debate because, one, it's boring, and two, it's also really boring.
So
it goes like this.
Yeah.
Joseph in the comments says, definitely going to reach people by insulting them. Yeah, believe it or not, you actually are going to reach a lot more people. The people, the passive Christians that are trying to be nice to everyone have led Christianity from being 90% of the population of the United States to 60% over 50 years. A massive decline. Doing this weak Christianity thing. I was reading the memoirs of a cowboy, and it's called My Confessions, and he's kicked out of the church because he got into a fist fight for defending a woman's honor. And these are the people that Christianity's been kicking out of the church, telling them to go elsewhere and find some other religion. Christianity's become feminized and pacified, and it's led to a massive decline within the Christian religion. When you're honest to people, when you confront people, when you call them out, guess what? Not only are you everyone's going to hear what you're doing and also associate what you're saying with those people and be more convinced, you're going to dissuade these people from being out there being degenerates in the street when you're calling them out. When social shame was a thing in the United States, you had less degeneracy. We lost all touch with that. And so, yeah, you will reach people by insulting them. You will reach the culture by insulting and being forward and being in their face. These people who go out and do that, the street preachers, they reach a lot more people than these passive preachers in the church saying, oh, let's all love and hug one another. It's a losing strategy. And we've seen your strategy tested for a century, and it's a failing strategy.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say, hey, knock that off. That's harmful. That's stupid. That's foolish. Why are you doing that? And people would say, well, you're offending me. Well, okay, yeah, I'm offending you because I love, because I care, And again, this is the old argument. Well, oh yeah, you're masking your vitriol with the term love. It's like, no, like sometimes a loving thing is to say, hey, eat your broccoli. It's the right thing to do. Don't, take your vitamins, don't do stupid things to hurt yourself.
And Jesus was so offensive. He just went around and he just insulted people. He called Gentiles dogs. He called preachers vipers, and he whitewashed tombs. He's like, oh, he just used insults on the regular. This was just his standard way of preaching. And so we have adopted this standard of nicety that is not biblical. It has nothing to do with Christianity. It's a feminized Christianity, and it's led to the decline of a culture. We're losing the culture war because of this.
And that ties in perfectly into what RV says here. He goes, maybe the Christian religion isn't as compelling as people once found it. Well, maybe it's not as pure as it once was. Maybe it's been watered down and homogenized, and it's compromised time and time again on fundamentals, and it's focused on things that were irrelevant. And I would say that the Christianity that we have today, I mean, let's say they bring back the gladiatorial games. How many so-called American Christians are going to be going, yeah, I'm not going to deny my faith. I'm willing to meet the lions in the arena, so to speak, because I have such convictions. And I think it's become more of a culture than it has become a faith and a way of life and a genuine belief system. So I don't think it's the Christian religion isn't as compelling as it once was, but I think what we call Christianity today has been really truly watered down.
Yeah, Jamie says he makes a joke. He says, "I sucker punched a guy for buying something on the Sabbath, and he's saved now." The book I was talking about, My Confessions by Samuel Chamberlain, that was his first fight he got into, was someone was swearing on Sunday, which is not really the Sabbath, but it's kind of the Sabbath. And so that was his first fight. They did not expel him for. The second fight they expelled him for. But that's just a coincidence.
It reminds me of that video where we had the Christian youth pastor, whatever, many years ago, where he said this kid he was giving him some lip, and the pastor just ran up and gut punched this kid and knocked him down. It's like, when are you going to repent and get right with God? I'm like,
and here's the thing.
Child abuse.
The atheists, they got so very mad. They're like, oh, here's this Christian pastor who punched this kid. The kid's not complaining. The kid said, oh, I deserved it. Like, let men defend themselves. If it was a problem, the kid would have brought it up. Sometimes men get into fights with each other. Sometimes you just punch it out and then you're done with it.
Yeah, and when they call it kid, it could have been an 18-year-old young man, but right. But the way it's presented, he's like 4 years old and giving lip back, it's good times.
Don't see enough evidence and remain unconvinced there's a God, then I say, but you use a theistic worldview of justification like there is a God to grant yourself logic and everything else. So instead of that, I'm just going to grant Matt's entire worldview. 2/3 or more of the plant.
That's watch Matt's face. Watch Matt's face. He's just like, he's like, what am I going to do here if my entire worldview is granted? Hey, he's going to write something.
He's trying to formulate a response. I watched him mostly than I did actually listen to Andrew, and you can see, because we've been in debate situations. Both of us have debated formally, and you're sitting here and you're listening to the arguments, and you're like, how do I address this? I'm trying to flow the debate. He just gave something. Well, he just conceded everything. So now what do I do? He just conceded everything. Okay, well, darn.
That's the best thing to do in a debate is to concede their points, especially when their points are off topic. Just say, okay, this is a debate, Matt Slick, about if God is evil in Calvinism. You say these verses mean God did a bunch of evil things. I'll just cede all those points. Guess what? That makes God evil. Ta-da! I win.
But you can see him kind of over here making notes as he's trying to flow it, and I think you get to see like the realization he's going to have a hard time flowing this thing.
And it are all operating inside of a shared delusion that they were created by a sky daddy who loves him some slavery and murderousness. He thinks it's funny to kind of cosmically with people. That's his deal, kind of his whole thing. That's Matt's worldview. So now Matt's right, and the question becomes, should we let them to continue to believe in this nonsensical Stone Age madness, or do we stop them from engaging in it? My contention is, even if God isn't real at all, that people acting as though he is still superior to whatever nonsensical egalitarian worldview Matt can come up with. See, Matt also just acts.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Here's the audience. Here's the audience. Oh, man. Okay, you can tell by the way they look which sides each of these guys are on. This guy in the front left, he's definitely a Dillahunty supporter. The guy in like the Hawaiian type shirt, absolutely.
Yeah, they're some of these guys may be seriously trying to listen, but they're not looking too happy. They're looking a little long in the face. Real quickly, I just got a question here. Go to the Mike Winger response series. Click on I think it's episode 5 or 6, and we make a positive case there based off the restored icon model and restoration via the incarnation. And then I'll get back to the video.
As though the things he believes are true. He believes, and therefore acts as though logic is real, math is real, everything is real based on his presuppositional belief that they are real. You see, human flourishing, the cornerstone of Matt's ideology and that of secular humanism, is totally meaningless. Flourishing by whose metric? From my perspective, for instance, attempting to lie to people who claim men can be women isn't human flourishing. From Matt's perspective, it is.
What's up?
Yeah, look at Dillahunty's face. Dillahunty does this. Look, so like boomers have been tricked into thinking that they're in an episode of Friends or The Office, where you take a look at the camera like this, like, oh, that's that's the whole joke. Like, oh, obviously this is terrible. And so you'll see this in the Q&A as well. These people get up basically saying men are women and women are men. And it'll, like, they don't have an argument. It's just a claim. And if you deny it, then you're some sort of horrid thing. But that's the thing. Biologically speaking, there are biological differences between the sexes, that there are men and women. This is just genetics. This is just biology. In my wife's biology class, the biology professor said, there are men and there are women. We're not going to debate this here. It's just a fact.
Yeah, and I mean these are like the tried and true historic scientific consensus, the views of his history. Men don't change and women don't change, and DNA remains the same. It's only in this recent era where we started trying to separate sex and gender that now they're trying to say, well, whatever you identify with. And I love the videos where they'll go to these extreme liberal men and women on the street, and they'll say, well, do you think a man can transition to a woman and become a woman? And they'll say yes. And they're like, well, could you become a man? And the lady's like, yes. And they're like, well, what, could you become a black man? And she's like, oh, no, can't do that. And he's like, well, why? Like, why can you transition your gender but not your ethnicity?
Because it's not about principles, and that's what's pointed out in this debate. They have no principles. It's whatever gives them political power is what they go after. Whatever degeneracy suits the moment. There's no standards. There's no principles. They just lie to people. They ruin people's lives. They're sex transferring children. They're chemically castrating children. They're making people miserable. The depression statistics, the single motherhood statistics, it's all out of control. People are not liking this. People are not flourishing. This is not human flourishing, and this is what they're hoisting on us.
Now, see, I'm a political I'm like a libertarian, right? And so I'm all about you living your freedom, and as long as you're not hurting someone else, Chris, you go make all the wrong choices you want, and you will serve as a lamppost to society not to follow in your footsteps. Because a healthy society allows people to make bad choices and self-harm and serve as a beacon to others. We try to caution it, we try and point against it, but there are those people in society where we point to our children, we go, study, work hard in school, or you could end up like down here, like the healthy society has those beacons of cautionary tales. And so I think in a healthy society, people should be free as long as they're not hurting someone else. And that does actually help keep most people on track because they see those extreme examples. But I think what we're seeing in our society is where they're trying to eliminate that, and they're removing that stigma, and they're trying to mitigate the damages that people are able to do to themselves in their lives. And so as a result, they're actually trying to create a heightened sense of value and purpose in that, and they're actually causing people to go to it in many different respects. And so there's a breakdown in our society where we don't have healthy benchmarks where we can say that person, is suffering, and we feel sorry for them. We want to help them, but we can use their bad choices as a teaching aid. Like our current society wants to get rid of all that. Like
the current society disincentivizes productive, normal, functioning people with healthy families. Does everything it can to destroy families, to destroy people who are actually earning and contributing to society, doing everything it can to prop up the criminal, the people who are leeching off of society, people who want to sexualize and molest children. The transgender shooter manifesto was just leaked today. The government went through a massive campaign to stop that from being published, to show that this trans shooter is targeting Christians because these Christians are white with blonde hair. They actively suppress that sort of information because they actively support these people doing those things, killing Christians. We live in a society that hates Christianity. It's institutionalized. It's in the government.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give old Wesley Curry here just an admonishment here. Be careful in the side chat. Don't get too crazy, or I'll have to boot you. I'm okay with people disagreeing and stuff like that, but the all cap stuff, man, that's got to go. And the rants, that's got to go. So knock that off, or I'll boot you.
Why? Why should the collective of humanity lie and say men can get pregnant? Why should they say that men can have periods? Things which are categorically and obviously false. That preserving homosexuality in society is good for human flourishing, even though they are reproductive dead ends. And that Western society and egalitarianism is superior to those evil theist society, even though the Western nations can't even reproduce their own populations, but instead have to replace their population with foreigners from those theist nations that can reproduce. Let's start with a basic societal question recently asked of.
I mean, that's a great point. I mean, if we're going to have a standard based on human flourishing, then the ability to create thriving, growing, successful, stable populations should be a good metric.
Right. Sweden went from a high trust society to the rape capital of the world. It's like number 3 in like rapes per capita. And it's because they took a bunch of people who have not been assimilated, who don't share their value sets, who are not part of a high trust society, and they flooded their society with young, military age men from foreign cultures, and it's turned it into a hellhole. That's what they're systematically doing. They're doing that. Assimilate. Take people with shared cultural values. If you don't share cultural values, you're going to go from a high trust society to a low trust society. There are stores in Japan where there's no shopkeepers, where you just walk in and grab and then pay based on the honor system. Those types of things have slowly died out in the United States. There was a farm thing that was set up in upstate New York, just say with farm fresh vegetables, saying pay what you can. Someone came up there and vandalized it, destroyed it all. Those things are going away. We're now in a low trust society. There's no cohesion.
Yeah.
Of the West, who has now embraced a scientific and non-theistic approach to governing. Super basic question every kindergartner knows. If you don't believe me, go watch Kindergarten Cop. The question posed to the Western nation is, can a man be a woman? All right? To the question of if a man can be a woman, they say the answer is yes. And the way we will decree they can be a woman is by simply saying that woman now means male. Problem solved. Thank you, secular humanists. Thank you so much. Nope, not kidding. Why, you ask, would people...
What is Dillahunty writing? Is it his runaway speech? He's just sitting there writing, and then he just gets up and he runs away. What are you writing, Dillahunty?
Yeah, I mean, and I think Matt said he's like, I felt targeted. This is all about me. And it's like,
that's so sad. I'm a world-class debater, and I have to run from a debate if they say things that make me feel bad. Here's the thing: their worldview is not based on facts and reality, and so when they're confronted in this vocal, direct way and called on their depravity, they have no defense. If his entire worldview was already granted, there's nothing he can say to his defense. He has to defend the current status quo.
Yeah. Sorry, I
Over
was
the top, stupid.
dealing with a knucklehead in the side chat.
Well, it's simple. The good is the good, man. We have to do what's good for human society and human flourishing. And if you don't call these deranged lunatics something they obviously aren't, they might self-terminate. So in order to avoid that, we need to make everybody on planet Earth lie to them. This is human flourishing. Just redefine shit, pretend it's true. How laughably absurd.
Oh, and sorry guys, I meant to post this. Viewer discretion. We have some adult language on today's program and some adult topics. So just for the people that were not aware.
Right. I'm reminded of the book The Gandhi That Nobody Knows. It's a short book. You could read it in probably an hour or two. But Gandhi's big thing was, if you don't do what I say, I'll hurt myself. And it only works when you have the British colonial government in charge of your country. If you have the Ayatollah, if you had ISIS or the Taliban, they would not care. They wouldn't give. They wouldn't care at all. You have to have a high trust type of society that cares about these cultural values in order to manipulate them like that. And so what we're seeing is good natured people, mom and pops, these boomers, they're being manipulated emotionally to their own detriment. Oh, if you don't affirm transgender things, then you're responsible for these transgender deaths. So they're being their goodness, their kindness is being weaponized against them in order to give power to the most deplorable people in society who want to molest children. That is their goal. And he points it out. Andrew points it out that this is their end goal. He doesn't do it super directly, but he points out where Dillahunty didn't want a law in which 9-year-olds could not have sexual relations with each other. And this is pretty common within the trans community, within the homosexual community, is the sexualizing of children. They defend it. They don't speak against it. I sent you a video earlier in which queer theory, all the progenitors of this, their founding documents are all about child sex. That's what this is about, sexualizing children. And so these boomers, their goodness has been weaponized against them to these very depraved ends. And so boomers should wake up.
Well, I mean, you see a trend too. Like I don't know all the data. All I can go off of is, anecdotal experiences that I've had. But I've had friends in the LGBT community, and as I talk to them, I think in nearly every instance there was an issue of abuse when they were little that impacted them. They would differ on to what degree, but it was always there. Or one very sweet lady I knew, had come from a very abusive relationship, and that sent her in another direction. And I think that we do a great disservice when we say that isn't at the very least a component of that community. That this isn't something that can affect the way that people view each other. And I think it is. I think it's really detrimental and sad because, and I think too. I think I want to be very careful because I think one of the things that Christians can do is we can come in and we can say, what you're doing is wrong, and you as an individual are a bad person, and I don't like you, and you have all these ill intents, and that very well may not be the case. They're doing bad things, or they may do things that we would disagree with. But in the same way that I'm going to separate the ist from the ism in other debates, we're talking broad terms here. We're not saying everyone that is a part of that community is going out and doing these things. We're talking broad terms, and you're specifically referencing their founding documents, speaking of these things. So I just want to make sure we're careful to nuance that, because I don't want to get canceled, and I don't want to have a mob showing up at my door.
Right. A lot of these people are victims, and then they turn into abusers. There was that case that just happened on Twitter. This guy was gay activists in either Pennsylvania or New York. It was Pennsylvania. There are two high-profile deaths, and one was a gay activist in Pennsylvania who was shot by a young black man. And it turns out the young black man shot him because he was being molested by that guy, who himself, the gay activist, had admitted in his Twitter on previous comments that he also was molested as a child. So he was molested as a child, became a homosexual, got AIDS, and started molesting like 13, 14-year-olds himself. The cycle just perpetuated. And then he got,
I mean, the type of abuse that we see in the world is just, it's heartbreaking.
That is not human flourishing. That is the opposite of human flourishing. Abusing children, destroying lives, taking away the innocence of the youth. This is stuff that should not be tolerated in a civil society.
And I think a lot of this has to do with governmental interference, like making it acceptable and condoning it and protecting certain forms of this. Give you an example. If I walk down the street and there's a homeless man there who has an imaginary cat, right? I've used this example before. He has an imaginary cat, and I look at him and I say, "Hey, man, like, how's your day going?" I give him, $5 to buy a sandwich, and he goes, "Aren't you going to pet my cat?" Now, I could, in an act of supposed kindness, humor him and reach over and pretend like I'm petting the cat. I could say, "Man, come on, there's no cat." Or I could be cruel and I could attack him. Or I could pet the cat and then leave and mock him for being an idiot and insane. And there's all these different ways that we could interfere with the cat. And people are free to interact and like you're able to live out your convictions when you're interacting with this guy. You can pet the imaginary cat, or you can tell him he's insane, or you can just kind of chuckle and walk off. But what happens when the government comes in and in an effort to protect his civil liberties or rights, they say that now it's a law that we all have to pet the imaginary cat. And you end up with mandated insanity, where now everyone is having to bend over and pet this imaginary cat because they're out of fear of the state using force on those who recognize this guy doesn't have a cat. And so you're actually taking a small, I'm trying to use very careful language here. You're taking a very small illness and you're inflicting it upon an entire society. And you're saying that is being kind. Whereas the kind thing may just be to leave the guy alone, or it may be able to offer various solutions to him. You don't want to use force on either him or those that are walking past him, according to Warren McGrew here. But you see the state coming in and mandating certain things, and it's perpetuating and making it worse. And you're seeing like the insanity of it. And the other thing that it does too is it makes people resentful. If you were able to just to freely walk by and ignore the guy, you might feel sorry for him. You might have some compassion. But when the state comes in and mandates that you regard him and his imaginary cat in a certain way, now you become resentful. And you actually start to create animosity between yourself and this man where there would not have been any otherwise. There would have been compassion. There would have been kindness, or at the very least indifference. But now we're fostering, vitriol between these two groups because we're upset that the state is making us do these things. And so that's where you're seeing this decline come into more and more into play. And it's causing more and more animus and conflict within society at large.
There's a new book out. It's called The Origin of Woke, which talks about how all this wokeness is basically legislated necessity. Yeah. It's due in case law. It's due to civil rights laws. That's what's forcing this. And so if people are interested in the origins and the solutions to this problem, it's not organic. All this trans ideology being thrust upon us is not bottom up. Is coming from the top down. It's being forced by the government through institutions, through the media, through corporations, and then filters down to us. It's not a grassroots movement. And so that's typically, you're going to see that our culture follows the political regime. The political regime controls the culture, not the culture controls the political regimes. Our culture is downstream from law, from the politics.
Yep, no, you're right.
Absurd this worldview is. Matt will often say, I remain unconvinced. Well, Matt, I'm also going to use your standard. I need for you to 100% convince me beyond a shadow of a doubt that males can have babies. What's the answer going to be? No, Andrew, you big stupid. Males can't have babies. Men can have babies, because we just defined man to include females, dummy. Well, Matt, I remain unconvinced. I'd like Matt to convince me that if you are a male and you are having sex with another male, which would not be allowed in my version of a secular humanist worldview, how is it that you're not just basically having sex with a guy with a wig on? I really want to know the answer to that question. Not just me, but all rational people who aren't lunatics also want to know why It's Ma'am isn't a complete and total crock of garbage.
I don't think this guy paid attention to what we just said.
Right, because he's an ideologue. He
Yeah.
doesn't care about the issues. He wants to shut us down through emotional manipulation. These are the terrible actors who are trying to use your goodwill, weaponize it against you.
That's exactly it.
These
We never
people-
came in and claimed they all were. In fact, we said they weren't.
Right. So this
So
is
you're not
this is a
listening.
terrible
You're not listening.
human being.
Yeah, you're coming in here and you're misrepresenting what we said and you're lying about our position.
They're liars.
Yeah, you're a dishonest agent. You're not here trying to actually protect anyone. You know, you're coming in here and you're lying and attacking us. So you know, enjoy the show, but no, you're a dishonest person.
Because I remain unconvinced that it isn't a total lie, and that these people don't just pervert the language to include their own perversions and then add human flourishing at the end. Matt has said he wouldn't make a law stopping 9-year-olds from having sex with each other. Not kidding. Now, I know this is going to sound a little bit totalitarian, but I would in fact create laws that made it a crime for a 9-year-old to have sex with their 9-year-old. I would hold the parents criminally liable for allowing this to happen in my evil authoritarian society, where I don't even let 9-year-olds have sex, or the parents go straight to jail for negligence. Now, I think that's better for human flourishing. I think maybe parents would be far less likely to let their 9-year-olds do that if they went to jail. Stupid me. Next, I would, in my authoritarian society, decree that all simulated sex acts in public were criminal offenses and would make sure that all people went to prison for the crime of indecency, which doesn't assist with human flourishing. And I'd like to know why I'm wrong.
There you go. We said that their founding documents cited it.
Right.
Of the movement. We said
all the founders, the Kinsey studies, he molested infants. He brought infants to orgasm. He has charts in his books about when at different ages people can be brought to orgasm. These people,
we're not saying every member of that community is a perpetrator of this. We're saying that the people that wrote the founding documents defended it, that it's historically linked. So you need to understand nuance.
And who talks against it? If you find the trans activist that talks against child molestation and pedophiles, you go find these people and don't come to us claiming that it's not a systematic problem in the movement until you have these high visibility people disclaiming pedophiles and child molestation.
And so, Joseph, I appreciate you clarifying. We've got to come back very strong here, because otherwise we're this is a sensitive topic and we can get misrepresented in our views very quickly. So, you know, we're proceeding into dangerous ground here. And so when we see something being misrepresented in what we're saying, we've got to speak to it pretty sharply. So, yeah, I appreciate you noting that clarification.
Secular humanism can basically be whatever the hell you want it to be. It doesn't really need the principle of freedom or the starting axiom of freedom and peace in order to postulate whatever it wants. It's sloganeering. They're slogans. They don't mean anything. Okay, why do 9-year-olds need to be able to have sex in order to advance humanity? Why do we need to lie about a person's sex in order to advance humanity? Why are these things necessary for human flourishing? Why are decency laws bad? Why would Christian ethics stop flourishing when the theist mandate is to reproduce, and the secular mandate is let's just all have sex and have fun, bro? That sounds way worse for human flourishing. In fact, I would say not reproducing is a worst possible thing for human flourishing, because if there's no humans, how do you flourish? So I guess in essence, step one, I remain unconvinced.
Yeah, when you talk to people who have dealt with traumatized, sexually molested children, these children, their entire lives are changed on a course for the worse. It's reoccurring. They feel like objects, and they keep reaching out for more of this sexual attention. You break people at early ages with sexual molestation. And so a society where you're dancing naked in front of children in parades, that we see video of it everywhere. It's not cracked down on. When you're sexualizing children, doing transgender strip dances in front of children, sexualizing children should not be legal. It destroys innocent lives, and there's long-term consequences.
The argument used to be whatever you do in the privacy of your own home and in your own bedroom is between you and any other consenting adult. That used to be the argument. But now we're going down Times Square. We're going on parades and floats. We're doing it with spotlights, and we have all these children that are watching.
You notice it was a lie to us, and they weaponized Christians' goodness in the 90s. Oh, they just want to get married, you know. And so, like, Obama was against gay marriage when he was first running for president. And so, how quickly times has changed. Everything that the Christians said would happen with all these social changes has in fact happened, and happened worse than the Christians predicted. The Christians were endlessly mocked by mainstream media and leftist pundits for everything they predicted, and everything the Christians said came to be true. It was all true. All these social changes led to this depravity. It was predicted. It was known.
Yep.
Need to be convinced, so I am no longer unconvinced. And step 3, but God not real though doesn't matter here. I've already granted it to still demonstrate just how stupid this ideology actually is. With that, I'll yield my time, and I'm happy to get into it.
Okay, that was not. It wasn't terrible. I mean, if I'm Dillahunty and I'm sitting there, like, how are you personally offended? Oh, he said that my significant other is a dude in a wig. Oh, and okay, we'll just hit play. We'll watch what happens. But just rewatching this opening statement, it's like, it doesn't seem bad to me. It doesn't seem so very offensive.
No, I mean, this is a situation where Dillahunty very easily could have responded, and addressed the various points and put his argument forward and defended his position. I mean, he is in the affirmative, so he's supposed to offer a defense. But and I don't think, while it was implied, it wasn't direct at Dillahunty's partner, not yet. So these statements would be
not yet, but Dillahunty's taking it all personal.
Yeah, he's taking it all personal,
and because he's never been confronted like this to his face, and so if these people spent a day in a conservative Christian's shoes, it would break them. You see a beautiful example of this right now. Israel versus Gaza, this whole war, and there's pundits on the left on both sides. And now they're being doxxed by their own people. People who support Gaza are being doxxed by people who support Israel. People who support Israel are being threatened online. They're spending a day in the shoes of what it's like to be a right-wing Christian in America, and they are losing their ever-loving minds. They have never experienced this in their life. Just a little bit of pushback is all it takes to break them mentally. And we see that happen here. Dillahunty has never gotten ounce of pushback in his life, and as soon as he does, he breaks. His mind breaks. It shatters. He doesn't know how to deal with it. He gives up.
Yeah, and I mean, and Andrew's not some Christian apologist coming in here going, well, golly gee, I've got to be, kind, and I've got to, handle it a certain way according to the, Christian apologetic industrial complex. No, he comes in, he's like, I'm a political, guy, and I think your ideology is dangerous, and Dillahunty apparently took so much offense, or realized he was going to struggle with a rebuttal, that he then wrapped himself in this and fled. But we'll see.
Hey, James, I just sent you a message.
All right. We are going to kick it into an open discussion. So 50 minutes, and let's kick it.
No, I don't think so. I'm not going to sit here and dignify the preparation that I went through and what people were here for.
You're so indignant.
Keep interrupting me.
I am.
Okay.
You're so indignant.
Would the moderator like to step in so that I can finish what I'm saying?
Please, Matt. Please. How dare someone have an opposing worldview?
I'm not going to sit here and dignify.
This is off the cuff, and Dillahunty wants to grandstand. It's like, don't interrupt me. Don't mock me. I'm making my point. I'm going to storm off. Oh, and if you interrupt me and bring me to task, and don't worship at my feet and shine my shoes like all the other Christians I ever interact with. Oh man, he can't handle it. It breaks him. It mentally breaks him.
Yeah, Mindtrap says Andrew rolled a 20 for perception. That's great. Yeah, nat 20, man.
Supposed to be a debate about Christianity versus secular humanism, which one's better for the world.
Yes.
With someone who clearly showed up with an agenda that has nothing to do with that.
I just laid
someone who refers to trans people.
I mean,
Andrew's laughing. I'm laughing with Andrew. He made the case.
yeah,
he made the case.
He laid out his argument, and now Dillahunty's upset because it involved pointing to
It
trans
involves
people.
his sacred cows.
Yeah. Yep.
And things that he knows is absolutely incorrect. Men being women within the last 10 years, this new social phenomenon, things that are absolutely contrary to science, biology, what we know about genetics, what we know about inherited characteristics, DNA, things like that. Their worldview screams against us. They're the science party, right? Oh, I pulled up this tweet for, oh man. I pulled up this tweet, and it's from Aristophanes on Twitter, and he talks about how AI is supposed to be the pinnacle of science. So all the science worshipers love AI, but what happens every time that they implement an AI, it turns extremely right wing. It's because the right wing is like based in reality, and so the AI never turns into a picture of them, and so they have to go through this process of nerfing every single AI that comes out, putting all these limitations in place to force it into their worldview.
Yeah.
They
essentially give it a digital lobotomy to nerf it. I mean, that you see that with even the art rendering programs where they have to go in and change it to where, you know, they don't want it creating certain images. They don't want it saying certain things. Yeah, it's very fascinating.
Right. So AI, when it's implemented, it does not reflect them and their values. They're not the party of science. They're not the people who care about reality and truth. And that's what Andrew's pointing out here. And he's pointing out very effective. This debate wouldn't happen 10 or 20 years ago, where he's saying, you guys claim men are women, right? This is the end consequences of them having institutional control of the institutions, forcing their ideology into the world, that it conflicts with basic truths that everyone knows.
Yep. And here we go. Roddy says, this is the problem. These people like Matt have been debating Christians that have been brought up to be nice at all costs. They can't handle someone who throws their garbage back at them. And then we've got another comment here from the most slept on. He says, acting like Christians and Catholics. So here's a tu quoque. I think that's the U2 fallacy. Our founding documents are not defending this.
Right. The Catholic priests who molest children, what community are they part of? I think they're part of the LGBTQ community, right?
Plus.
Yeah. Plus.
They're the plus.
Plus is the priests who molest little boys, right?
They're in the plus. Yeah. So our founding documents do not endorse or encourage this or defend it. They condemn it. So when you have someone acting contrary to the founding documents, you can't turn around and use that to attack the foundational belief system. Whereas on the other view that you're trying to defend, the foundational documents are written to defend and promote that at all costs. So when people act in accordance with that, we're able to draw attention to that. They're acting consistently. So you turn around and say, well, someone in your worldview isn't acting consistently. It's a horrible argument.
And there's nothing about rates and per capita. You don't see anything like that. This is weaponizing goodness, people's decency. This is not about ideology. This is not about consistency. This is not about facts. He's just trying to, whatever he has to say to try to shut us up, he'll say it, whether or not it makes sense, whether or not there's data to back it up. It's just floundering in the wild. This is what they do. That's their modus operandi. What do I have to say to make you bow, to make you shut up, to make you comply? They will literally say anything.
Well, they're not just saying anything.
Moral compulsion.
They'll legislate. They'll legislate punitive. So if you disagree, if you're a free thinker, if you speak up, you're in danger of being penalized, punished, fined or locked up. And that's where we're headed.
Right.
So the internet is supposed to give everybody a broader platform where we can communicate and share ideas and this freedom of expression. But the powers that be in authority, they'll enact legislation to shut that down.
That's why the censorship regime is in overtime. You got the government paying Twitter to censor conservatives. You got the U.S. government giving millions of dollars to Twitter to censor conservatives. That's what we've seen.
So here we go. So he says, I'm not defending, I'm saying both are wrong. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, we'll condemn child abuse wherever it raises its
Michael
ugly.
Malice points out that these people who use little emojis in their comments are trying to create a perception that they're in a group so that they could have a group consensus. And so it's an interesting thing he notes.
As deranged lunatics who will self-terminate if you dare to question them.
How am I wrong, Matt?
Someone who misrepresents a quote from a debate where I said I wouldn't make a law about 9-year-olds having sex being legal with respect to the 9-year-olds, not that I was in any way in favor of it and that I was actually opposed to it, which I addressed during that debate. But moreover, this is not remotely an honest interaction on the front of whether or not secular humanism is valuable. Because this, when he presented his position here, has nothing to do with secular humanism. From the get-go, it's all about me. Matt thinks, Matt thinks, Matt thinks. I'm giving what Matt thinks, what Matt thinks, what Matt thinks, what Matt thinks.
Matt's position.
I came in with the Secular Humanist Manifesto.
Yeah, I mean, you're allowed to say this is his position. These are the claims and entailments of it, and I'm drawing out the problems with that position.
Yeah, everyone, the audience who's not the leftists who are there for Dillahunty, they obviously understand what Andrew's saying is accurate. The secular humanist worldview leads to this situation in which it's legally enforceable for you to say women are men. That is the end results of secularism.
Yeah, he says he seems to be going with outrage because he will not address the issue. He's running away. Now, this isn't unique. This isn't unique to secular humanists or even Matt Dillahunty. You know, I've engaged in a couple debates, and I've had online interactions where people will feign outrage. You know, even in Christian debate, they'll call you a heretic or they'll attack you rather than actually give a substantive rebuttal of your criticism or actually present anyone. So they'll wrap themselves in victimhood. They'll feign rage and they'll say, "Oh, you know, you're the problem," but they won't actually address the ideas.
Weaponizing compassion. So there's a group of people out there with compassion who wants to see everyone treated real nicely. They want to weaponize that for their political agenda. That's all Matt Dillahunty's doing right now. He's like, "Oh, woe is me! I'm being so oppressed." I didn't hear anything that was bad. You can't interact with this. You can't interact with someone saying that, like, calling men women is biologically incorrect. You can't do that.
Well, I mean, okay, let's look at the debate with the 9-year-olds. If Andrew's taking him out of context, then I haven't seen that debate. So let's give Matt the benefit of the doubt on that. Let's say that Andrew took him out of context. How easy is it for Matt to then come in and say, "You took me out of context. This is what I said. This is what I argued with. I'm going to set the record straight." And now you've gone on record yet again with what your position is, and you've called out this as deceptive. But instead, you're saying he misrepresented me, and you won't go in and actually give a substantive.
He doesn't believe that it should be criminal for 9-year-olds to have sexual intercourse. He doesn't think anyone should be culpable. He thinks that's fine. It's part of his worldview, sexual degeneracy. Aaron McCarthy, I don't know his last name offhand. I interviewed him on my channel, but he always has this statement where it's that Bart Simpson tapped the sign. It's like they just want to have sex with children. Everything's getting to this sex with children. You see all their activists getting charged with child pornography. I got maybe 20 articles downloaded, a bunch of these different people all getting caught propositioning children, interacting with children, having child pornography. That's what this is about. And Matt Dillahunty, he's not going to come out and say that this stuff is wrong. I don't think he's going to do it. Maybe he will in response to this, but I don't think he actually believes it. He would have came out against it, but I think he wants children to be sexual.
See, when I was watching the debate, I'm coming at it from my own libertarian mind, you know, and like I said, I'm not familiar with the arguments Matt made in this debate that they're referencing. So I'm thinking, I don't want to punish children. That's how I was understanding it. So I'm like, yeah, I don't want a law punishing children. And then Andrew said, well, we would hold the parents culpable because of their negligence. And I go, oh, well, that makes sense. I could see why someone would be in favor of that. And if Matt's position is simply, I don't want to hold children culpable, then he could come out and say, no, you're misrepresenting I don't want to hold the children culpable. They're victims and they need, help and they need treatment. Well, that would be the way to respond, but he doesn't do that.
So
And so it leaves this question there.
Historically, homosexuals have been maybe 3% of the population. It's going a lot higher now, but we're experiencing a cultural shift, a movement to sexualize children, and that's how homosexuals reproduce. Very often, it's this child molestation, where if you get them young enough sexually, they'll start engaging in this lifestyle, or else very few people actually actively take up that lifestyle on their own volition.
Yeah, yeah.
Came in with positions that aren't
your
just
positions.
that aren't merely my positions.
Oh, well, as long as multiple people hold the position, it
This
makes it
guy's not
valid.
serious, and I'm leaving. James, if you want a refund, you
Well,
let me know.
good day, sir. And I'll cover your refund, Mr. Matt.
He just said he'd cover my
I
refund.
would cover his refund.
No.
Nope.
Yeah, you shouldn't show these people respect and dignity. You shouldn't like bow to them and treat them so kind and nice. They're promoting degeneracy. It's what are you doing? What do you do as a Christian? You're losing the cultural war. Christianity was 90% of the population. It's now at about 60%. You're losing the cultural war with this nice guy Christianity. Men who are actual men, they don't want to be associated with nice guy Christianity, feminized Christianity. They're leaving. It's like, and then who do they go to? They go to like the Andrew Tates of the world. Oh, this guy represents manliness. They turn to things like Islam. They turn to things like red pill, things like that. Young men are moving towards those positions. I saw a chart where the young men, kids in school, young men are more right-wing than ever, and young women are more left-wing than ever, because young men are being pushed into this direction due to the hostility that society's been showing them. And Christianity is just losing all these men who they could be scooping up and claiming. There's one article that said young men are turning to the right wing because they're making it feel like someone cares about them. Like, yes.
Yeah.
You do not care about young men. You want young men's lives destroyed. You see them as evil oppressors. These young men who just want love. They just want someone to hold. They just want a wife. They just want a normal life. And you're villainizing them and you're just beating them down relentlessly. Yeah, of course they're going to turn to these communities with that kind of persecution of young men.
No, it's heartbreaking because, I mean, we have an entire society that demonizes masculinity and males and the standard roles and interests that we have, and we're pushed to the outskirts and villainized and it's just heartbreaking.
No, I'm not going to dignify a debate with someone who walked in to trash talk people and be smug and all of the things that he's being right now. He's already said he will cover my expenses. You don't have anything to worry about. This debate is over. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
He does the hat tip.
Did you call me a jackass, Matt? Well, you and your husband have a good day, man.
And there it is. So I did not know Matt was in a relationship with a transgender individual. I don't know the proper terminology, but yeah, I had no idea. And so then you see here Matt again gets angry at this because Andrew is noting that the guy that Matt is in a relationship with is a biological male, and that upsets him. And it was intended to. It was definitely a dig from Andrew. But this happened after Matt bailed. This happened after Matt bailed.
Have a wonderful day, Matt. Yeah. Yeah. No, that was fine. I mean, if you're going to take a parting shot, I will too, Matt. Yeah.
See, he's not your typical Christian apologist. You know, you're not going to get the Christian apologist guys out there taking pot shots at his relationship with a transgender individual. You're not going to get that. But this, you know, Andrew, man, he's letting it rip.
Yeah, when leftists get just 1 ounce of abuse that the right-wing people get, their minds just break. He didn't call him names directly. He was focusing things generally, but just because it affected him personally, Dillahunty broke. These people, they're not mentally sound. One of the stats I pulled up was about mental illness in record numbers, and guess what segment of the population? Race and gender is the highest level of diagnosed with mental illness. Who are the worst people on earth?
For mental illness?
Yeah, just who's the worst people group on earth?
I'm gonna be a misogynist.
Leftist women.
Yeah, that's where I was headed.
Record numbers of being diagnosed with mental illness. These people are not happy. This ideology that they're buying into has led them to depression. Yeah, there is a solution. The solution is Jesus. The solution is morality. The solution is traditional values, but that's not the solution that they want to hear.
No, your parting shot's correct. Oh man, tough crowd.
I'm not sure.
No, you guys got to cover your own costs. Sorry.
So I agree that what Andrew said was helpful in that. Well, hold on, just let me actually talk. Is like I'm already.
Can you imagine you're sitting here and you're having a debate and your opponent just like gets up and walks off and you're kind of left there going, well,
he's enjoying it. He's reveling in it because he knew that this reaction would happen because Dillahunty has been conditioned on passive Christianity. He's never been confronted. He knows he has him over the barrel. He granted his whole worldview. Secular humanism is correct.
He's got a big old grin right there.
Big old smile. And all Matt's acolytes step up to try to give the arguments that Dillahunty would have given, and it's like they're all slaughtered and they're all shut down. He says, "I granted it all. If secular humanism is correct, then my Christian worldview is no different or better than his. If we have objective standards, it's like what makes my views about sexual laws that should be on the book, what makes them better or worse than his?" Right? If it's human flourishing we're after, guess what? My views lead to that human flourishing, and Dillahunty's views lead to misery, decay.
Yeah, he says Andrew roasts the audience after.
Oh, it is so funny. It is so funny.
Oh, yeah. And here's Roddy. He says, I'm not saying apologists should go out and be jackass to everyone, but they need to stop letting the people they debate run all over them under this ridiculous idea Christians have to be stupid nice. Yeah, I mean, you know.
Right. So you have to know who you're interacting with. And if you're interacting with a hostile, evil, bad actors with bad intents, you don't be nice to them. You give, and you give twice as hard. You shut them down. If you're interacting with honest, good intentioned actors, that's when you could have the actual conversations. But Dillahunty is not a good actor. He's not an honest person wanting an honest debate about the merits. He's an ideologue, and he's obsessed with social justice warrior talking points. Men can be women. He can't defend that. It's not something he could defend. It's something he just has to assert and assert through force. And so if he has to debate it, he'll leave.
Yeah, there is no defense for it. And I think that's what Matt demonstrated here, is there is no defense. That's it. You know, and Andrew, the points he made, they're left. You know, they always talk about flowing a debate. You know, you're sitting back and you're making notes for, you know, what the positive position, their arguments. You're making notes for the positive arguments that the negative position is making, and you're trying to flow these points and see who responded to whom and who flowed. You know, Matt just goes, "No, I'm done. I'm out." And you know, it's like, okay, well, and then he said and then what's interesting, and of course we don't have all the information on what happened, you know, before, during, and after, behind the scenes. But then Matt tweeted that he's like, "I'm done with modern day debate. I'm not going back on their platform anymore. Like it's these guys that are the problem." And it's like, what did the guys at Modern? I'm curious to see what Matt's issue is with modern day debate.
Yeah, the modern day debate guy is one of these passive Christians, and in the questions and answers, he stands up. He's like, "I don't agree with your approach. You're too mean to him."
Yeah, it's. I was picking up, and it sounded like modern day debate was actually defending Dillahunty.
Yes,
And
he was,
rebuking Andrew,
and he's still condemned.
and he's still condemned.
Guess what? Communists, when the communists take over, you're the first ones up against the wall.
Yeah.
All the people who led the communist revolutions were the first ones shot. So don't think that they're not coming for you. That they are coming for you. Stalin killed more communists than Nazi Germany, and the White Russians, the whites versus the reds. The White Russians killed. Stalin killed more communists than both of them combined. They kill their own. They eat their own.
Yeah, no, we definitely see that. And it may be, I'll skip ahead a little bit here.
To begin with. So I'd like to know, so
because I fled the debate stage?
Yeah, where's your degree in psychology to understand these
credentialism?
You need a degree in psychology to know what a man and a woman are, sir?
Well, apparently you need.
Okay, so there's a clip out there of where there's this conservative speaker, and this guy stands up and says, "I have a degree in anthropology," and you can't tell based on his skeleton whether or not it's a man or a woman, and the whole room laughs. This is what you could get with a degree. You could literally just say the most absurd things. And so since leftists have control of the institutions and they'll give degrees to anyone who just spouts regime talking points, they rely on credentialism. You have to have a credential or else you can't say that. It's just like hero worship because they can't do their own thinking for themselves.
Jay Gee says, if they go after the arguments Andrew made, they will be unable to overcome the simple logic, so they have to characterize him. You know, and it's like, you know, I think as a debater, right, my personal style is to use a little bit of like polemical arguments. I like to get in there with a little bit of rhetoric. I like to get in there with obviously the facts and employ some logic and some reason. And depending on who I'm debating, I may drop a little bit of a jab here or there to drive a point home, right? So that's kind of my style. Andrew has a completely different, you know, he's just like a bulldozer going in there, and it's not without precision. I mean, I'm not trying to say that his arguments aren't well thought out or anything, but he just has his own different approach to debate. And you know, and I don't think any two debaters are going to approach this the exact same way. And so, you know, when you enter into the metaphorical octagon of you know, professional debate, you're going up against something that unless you've debated them before, you've watched tons of tape, is somewhat of an unknown. You don't know their style, you don't know their delivery, you don't know the way they formulate their arguments. And this is a risk that you take when you go into a debate. And then even if you've watched their videos, like I watched Matt Slick hours and hours and hours. I'm still recovering, you know, like I watched hours of Matt Slick's content before we went into debate, and I was expecting him to make several turns that he never made. You know, so even when you get in there and you've studied and you know the other person, there's no guarantee they're going to respond the way you are. You have to meet them where they are in the moment. You have to respond, good or bad. You have to respond, you know. And can you imagine if we all just, you know, with what do they call it, bluff and bluster, just start pounding our chest and going, I'm offended you disagree with me and think I'm wrong. Like, duh. That's what we're doing here. Like we're debating. Yeah, we think you're wrong. Like that's the whole point of it.
They have a lot of currency out of that tactic in society.
Oh,
But
it's
more and
ridiculous.
more people are seeing through this woe is me tactic. Oh, I'm such a victim. Oh, I'm being so oppressed.
No,
You're not.
I can
You're the
debate somebody
oppressor.
who's a total jerk to me, and then we can go out and I'm like, you want to get a burger? You want to continue the conversation? You know, like why does it have to end where like we can't talk anymore because we disagree? Like we're having a spirited, lively disagreement. You think I'm wrong, I think you're wrong. Like, you know, let's go to Red Robin and talk this over under unlimited, you know, French fries and ketchup, you know?
You hear the audience start screaming things like transphobe and things like that.
Yeah.
They're just throwing it out there because they're not intellectual actors. They're trying to use language to shut him down. They don't want him talking. So what do they have to say and yell? So a good example of, again, is this whole Israel versus Palestine thing. People are being called racists for like, they don't even know why they're getting called racist for supporting one side or the other, or Moms for Liberty. These women go there to support transparency in textbook curriculum, and all of a sudden they're getting called racist out of nowhere and they're confused. It's a word meant to shut conversation down. It's a word meant to control. It's not a word meant to facilitate meaningful information. You shout the person down. You shut them down any way you can. You say whatever you can. This is how they operate. We're not dealing with honest actors.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to smear them with a label rather than actually address the arguments. Mindtrap says Andrew met him in a dark alley debate with a truth 2x4.
Like, I'm serious. I'm going to toss people if this gets out of hand. Seriously. I don't care. I will carry you up myself. So keep self-control. Okay. Andrew, you have to let them ask the question.
Okay.
You pissed off everybody.
Okay, fair enough.
When the question asker doesn't talk into the mic, we just can't hear it very well.
Actually ask the question. Like,
Okay.
that's fair.
Okay, fair. Go ahead.
Probably being personal. So I didn't hear an argument against secular humanism. I'm not necessarily on board with everything with the secular humanist manifesto. What specifically about the manifesto that he talked about do you find troubling?
It's all lies. It's literally based on non-reality being subjectively interpreted as whatever you want. You can make bold claims.
Specific, please.
I'm giving you a specific one. If you, sir, believe that a man can be a woman and you can think that you can gaslight the entirety, are you going to let me answer the question or no?
Go ahead.
If you want to try to gaslight the entirety of humankind, that this falsehood actually exists in descriptive reality, and then say, well, that's science, and we rule with science, we rule with our mind, we rule with our brain. That's absurd. It's absurd. How in the world can you want a doctrine like that to run your life? How?
Where is that in the secular humanist manifesto?
He has no descriptor for what is true. He has no justification for truth. Because he has no justification for truth, they can make up whatever they want as being a truth claim. In this case, they make up what is a man and what is a woman. Do you understand?
Yes, you're making the
Right,
presuppositional argument that you have to ground all beliefs in your belief in God.
Which
is
I
what
also
you're
made that
secretly
argument.
doing.
I conceded his entire worldview to ask him one descriptive claim about reality, and he got so upset about the descriptive reality claim, he fled the room.
So they were attacking him and saying, you're a presupper, you're presupposing everything has to be grounded in God. And he goes, I already conceded that. Like, no, for the purpose of the debate, I conceded that, you know, God is a big imaginary sky daddy, and my view is baseless as Matt. So which one is best for human flourishing? And like I don't know if they just didn't understand his argument, or if they were like refusing to understand it.
That's actually what secular humanism believes and is propagating to society, men are women. And so it's valid for the debate. It's a good example. He wants like a specific example from their manifesto rather than practical results we could see with our own eyes. And like, what are they here to debate? We see in front of us the practical results of what happens when an entire society, the entire complex, government and corporations are controlled by secular humanism. We see the results. We should be able to talk about them in any evaluation whether or not secular humanism is good for society. It's not good for society.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, we're talking about ideas, we're talking about concepts, we're talking about conflicting ideologies and complex worldviews, and we're not coming in and we're saying, you know, Jim over there or Sarah over there. We're not targeting the individual. We're talking about large worldviews. We're talking about these things that are ideologies. That's what we're addressing here. So I don't want anybody in the comments or later coming in and going, well, you picked on my best friend's brother's sister's neighbor's kid and you don't understand their life. No, I don't. That's not, we're not even making that argument. And I see that's where this could easily be, you know, headed. People will come in and go, well, I know someone, or I've got a family member, or, okay, that's nice. We're not attacking them. We're talking about an ideology, right? If you want to make your family member a poster child for that, then you're going to have to take on the argument that they are embodiment of the mass, the majority view of that position. And I don't think they can do that.
Yeah, it's another example of weaponizing compassion.
That's
If
it.
you don't fall in line with me ideologically, then you're harming this person. Let me point to them again. Like Israel and Hamas, each side is showing pictures of dead babies. They're just throwing dead babies everywhere. Let's put as many pictures up as dead people. Each side, it's like, what are you guys doing here? It's both sides can't be doing the same thing. They're trying to weaponize compassion is what's going on, and that's what happens when they grab these people and make a poster child. You're harming this person. Oh, look at that, your ideology. You have to fall in line not only with my ideology but all my policies, prescriptions, my entire worldview, or else this person is harmed. Weaponizing your compassion.
That's it. And what happens when you engage in this sort of defensive posturing is you end up anesthetizing people to it. You desensitize them. It becomes so commonplace. Like, I mean, when we can come in and say they're throwing dead babies and they're throwing dead babies, well, then it loses, and we become desensitized to it. And so their effort, so they have to show more. They have to raise the stakes, so to speak. And that seems very dangerous. You know, that's a horrible way to push an ideology.
Yeah, don't
ever get higher.
Don't be fooled. These people don't share your compassion. When a Christian school is shot up by a trans person, they do everything they can to make it about trans people being persecuted. They don't care about the killed Christians. When a Christian pro-lifer is shot to death outside on a street, Obama did nothing. When an abortion doctor was shot up, he sent in the police to guard every single abortion clinic. These people want you dead. They don't care about you. They don't care about your children. They just want you to shut up. They want to control you. They have no compassion.
It's tragic.
Personal about
it. What was personal? When did I name anybody?
Your closing statement as he walked out. I hope you and your husband have.
Oh, you mean after he called me a name?
Which was very personal.
When he called me a name first.
Yeah, so you're insulting his partner along with him.
No.
Why not? If he's insulting you, why don't you just directly insult?
How can it be an insult if I'm giving you a descriptive, real, true statement? That's a real, true statement. How could you be insulted unless you know it's a lie? How?
All right. Next one coming in.
There you go. I mean, you know, he identified him as a man, and they're like, "That's an insult." Yeah.
Good luck to you.
Hey, Andrew. I'm pretty religious myself. I tend to keep to myself. But one thing that I've always been listening to, or I can't really say the verse really well. I don't really remember it by heart, but it's had something to do with along the lines of don't give swine, or don't give pearls to swine because they wouldn't know what to do with it. Not to call anybody who doesn't believe in
I
religion.
think you just called the whole audience swine.
Yeah. Sorry, not. Oh, that's just what the. That's just what the.
Yeah,
I
I
think that's
know.
just what the quote
He did a
was.
snorting
Basically
sound.
saying,
Andrew
don't,
did a snorting sound.
push and try to
And
convince.
look at this
someone
lady
to
down here in the bottom. Like she's
unbelievers, or
like,
they
what
don't
is this
believe
guy
in
The whole
doing?
debate, she's not having it.
So
Yeah.
what kind of gets you fired up and want to try and tell them, your position,
So
It's funny, like not to pick on the audience too much, but the whole collective. I don't want to single anybody out. Like obviously she's thinking, right? But it reminds me of like the people that would sit in old Judge Wapner's divorce court. Like when I was a kid, my grandparents would like have a TV and they'd scroll through it, and they'd have like just random people sitting in the courtroom in Judge Wapner divorce court or the People's Court or whatever it was. And there'd just be like random people just sitting there. That's kind of what this reminds me of. They're not really into it.
position has a requirement in truth. It's one of the commandments of Christianity. It's one of the 4 things that we should focus on is what is true. And yet people make these ridiculous descriptive claims and expect us. Look at how pissed off some of these people are. Because I told the truth.
Yeah, he's pointing to the audience.
What in the
He's like,
world did I
"You
say?
guys-"
That was not true. Nothing. There was nothing I said which is untrue. And yet they're still that upset. Over what? Because they don't have truth. There is no truth on their side. It's all a bunch of lies and a facade. And so when you tell them what's true, they malfunction. They go into NPC mode. I was told man could be woman. It's insane. They can't. It's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah, I just think that like that cannot go like hand in hand. Like religion and secular humanism can go hand in hand if like you kind of just like you're not totally right, you're not totally wrong, but we're in America, you can live the way you want. I do have a personal problem when you try to force it, regardless if it's religion or secular humanism, when you try to force your beliefs and tell them like, oh, you're a bigot if you don't believe this, or you're delusional if you don't believe this and stuff. But it's just let's all get together, be friends,
I'm not adverse to people having the most radical for me worldviews on planet Earth. I debate with them all the time professionally. Okay? All the time professionally. Talk to them from all over the world. I don't run away from their views. I don't run away if they think that I find they're mean. I tangle with them and their ideology, and I destroy it because it's wrong. It's a wrong ideology. Matt knew what was coming. The next thing was just a simple question, and it would have led, unfortunately for him, to a place that nobody likes to go because societally it's become uncomfortable to tell the truth. And his ideology clearly promotes the discomfort in telling the truth. There is truth. There's objective truth. Like, at what point are we going to decide, that a 400-pound guy is skinny because he says he's skinny? Like, come on. At some point, we have to use what he calls rationality and reason. Right?
All right, next question.
Hey, Andrew. So you just mentioned truth 80 times. It's true. It's true. It's true. Can you describe to us your process for finding truth in this instance?
So this is interesting. This is actually an interesting question where Andrew, he reveals he's like a Catholic or something, and I might not have the same answer as him, but he's in this adversarial position where these people are. How would anyone describe their truth-making process? Right? It might be hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, you say, well, I use my God-given faculties to interact with the world around me and try my best to ascertain what is real, what is tangible, what corresponds to reality. You get into correspondence theory, but to do that on the fly, I mean, under this kind of pressure,
right? And the intent of the question is like, what makes it true that a man is not a woman, and women can't be men, and vice versa, things like that. That's where he's trying to go with this question, and so Andrew kind of shuts that down with how he answers it, even though it might not be a very satisfactory answer for anyone who's looking into the philosophy of knowledge.
Now, Andy says that Andrew's actually Orthodox. That's cool. So I'm not sure if he's Greek, Eastern,
Well, he mentioned something about like Catholics. Like I think in the answer to this. So let's
Okay.
see what he says.
Christian. We gain truth through divine revelation, the belief in God, church history. We have all sorts of different metrics that we can use, which I'm happy to get into with somebody during a debate. Could have brought all those things up. I would have been happy to go through each one of them. And absolutely, we can use these descriptors for what is true. But even in the comments, I don't think you and I would disagree in just the way that we kind of look at things, what might be true or not true. You know, I think we can both look at a tree, for instance, and say, you know what? That's a tree. The problem is when somebody goes, no, it's not, man, it's a rock. And I get, no, wait, no, it's not. You know what I mean? And they try to gaslight you into believing that it is. That's insanity. To me, that stuff is insane. It's just pure insanity.
And so that's actually pretty good. So what's that movie? What is a Woman? In which he goes and asks a bunch of experts just for a definitional operation of what it means to be a woman. And they just do not answer him for professional reasons, because ideologically they can't have a definition to be held accountable to. Their definition for men and women have turned from something that like is dictionary defined to something that has to be so flexible that anything anywhere can be included in that category.
Well, they've eliminated what it means to be a man or a woman. So they have these things have no meaning at all. So what does it mean to transition from an amorphous thing to another amorphous thing that can't be defined? In the endeavor to move between the genders, they've eliminated them as having any unique aspects at all,
unless it's advantageous to them politically.
Unless it's politically advantageous, that's correct. But it seems like, okay, well, it's so arbitrary. But yeah, I mean,
none of this is about standards. This entire movement, the trans movement, is not about ideological consistency. It's about political control.
It can't be. It doesn't have it. There's nothing there that is ideologically consistent. It's subjective. It's emotional. It's based on the moment, whatever is most expedient, and thus it's amorphous.
Mentioned that you find truth is through divine revelation.
Mm-hmm.
If two people have conflicting divine revelation, how would you find truth between them?
Yeah, so that's a good question for Protestants. So Protestants, for instance, I asked the Protestants the same exact question. If you're imbued with the Holy Spirit, and you're imbued with the Holy Spirit, and you're both reading the same passage, and you come up with completely different answers to what that passage means, how do you know who's telling the truth? How do you know which one of you is right? It's the same exact.
Like I think that's a Catholic thing where it's like, oh, the Pope is the arbiter. It
doesn't. Well, no, it would be either Rome or Eastern Orthodox, because in both of them they defer to the traditions and teachings of the Church. So they're going to say that the Church is authoritative.
Oh, so is that what he's appealing to here?
Yeah. So like as an Eastern Orthodox, you would still affirm that the Eastern Church are the ones that have established what is and what is not a proper interpretation of the text or application. So it's not simply an appeal to the Pope, but it's that tradition of interpretation, which is I don't want to get too derailed here, but who are you appealing to within that tradition? Well, we've got 3 guys over here that said this and 4 guys over here that said that. Which group is it? In the East, they're more likely to say both. It seems to be a little bit more, but in the West, it seems to be more dogmatic. Like, these are our guys.
Criticism that I have. Luckily for us, we have church history. We have church history and apostolic succession. So we actually know what the Bible says right from the very beginning through apostolic succession. We don't have any disagreement because we yield to the authority of the church, who's in universal agreement.
Except based on interpretation. When you different
based on interpretation.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the interpretation that you think that my church holds that you disagree with?
I don't know what specific beliefs.
Well, then why would you even open your mouth about it? It makes no sense.
Andrew, dude. Oh, you're hilarious, man. I mean, I don't know how many packs of cigarettes you smoke a day, Andrew, but you've got that smoker voice, man, and with the bravado and just the bluntness, it's I could see why some people might be put off by it, but I find it endearing.
Yeah. Are you saying I should like take up smoking like a pack a day or something?
Oh man, yeah. Like I want, and you should see. I mean, like I watched one of his other videos. I mean, the guy is a chimney, man. He's over there, and but that just. Why are you bringing it up? You don't. What are you doing? You're asking me a question. You don't even care. You don't know what you're talking about.
Talking about when I was young, I first turned 18. Cigarettes were like $5 a pack. They're like $15 a pack now. Back then, I never started smoking because it was just too expensive. I didn't have any money. It's like I can't even afford it now, even if I wanted to. I don't know how these people do like a pack or two a day. It's like, what magical money fairy is just raining money on them to buy these cigarettes?
I don't know, man. Like, yeah, I mean that they might be able to afford some rental properties if they cut back on it.
I'm good. Thank you.
Another question from Ozian. Come around there,
Just
buddy.
a final question. So is it true that the topic today was, will secular humanism beat Christianity, or was it about transgender?
Okay, your worldview isn't based on reality; it's based off of superstitions.
Well,
what is
the claim?
Yeah, I think he's talking about the secular humanists. Their worldview isn't based on reality; it's based off superstitions, because they believe that if you say it enough, then you can actually alter reality. So you can say the imaginary cat that doesn't exist does exist if everybody stops and pets it. So that's not very scientific there, Aaron.
Yeah, that's like how do we know anything about history? How do you know Abraham Lincoln existed? And so historical claims are a different category than you would make claims about natural properties, natural laws, things like gravity, something like that. So in the way that we understand how history happens, that's how we know Christianity is true. Even Bart Ehrman takes infidel guy to task when he claims that Jesus is a historical myth. He's like, we got more information about Jesus than like 99% of the people that ever existed. Jesus was a historical real figure. He just says, oh, I just deny the claims of his followers. And what does Bart Ehrman say? He says, because mass hallucinations are known to happen. And so he's not doubting their claims that they experienced all these things with Jesus, but he just thinks it's like a mass hallucination or whatnot. And so that's a position you can take, but saying that Christianity is a superstition for believing into life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. No, we're reading the same evidence and we have a different interpretation, right?
Silliness. Now, Roddy, I'm going to encourage you, brother. You stay away from it. You stay away from that right now. Don't let this program put you back into temptation, man.
One pack a year is okay. Just
you stop that, Chris. You stop that. Don't. Hey, if Santa puts that in your stocking, Roddy, I expect you to throw that away, brother. I want you to live long, healthy life.
No, the topic today was secular humanism versus Christian ethics. Christians have an ethical duty to tell the truth, and the secular humanist, does not. As I just demonstrated live to everybody, they have absolutely no duty to tell anybody the truth about anything. None.
Well, I think everybody can see on screen what the debate topic is, and what he said was not the truth.
He's a liar.
It says, no, that was not the debate topic even just an hour ago.
What happened?
That's a question. So like he's like live streaming like a question that's under the debate. And so the question asker is confusing the question with the topic of the debate. Will secular humanism beat Christianity? But the actual topic debate is
what has the best ethical foundation
for human flourishing?
Yeah,
what's the best for humanity?
Yeah.
And I would not want to live under a secular humanist society. Much rather live under a Christian society.
Yeah. Here you've got Valader says the topic of the debate makes this even more of a win for Andrew.
Yeah, we see secular societies. Just go read the Gulag Archipelago. Go read about communist Russia. There's a new book out called The White Pill that goes through the history of the Soviet Russia. And if we think that United States is dystopian, these secular governments throughout history have made life complete living hells for millions of people who are lost to history, killed, just ground in this machine, this unfeeling machine that does not care about people. Christian societies just don't do that. And the popular counterexamples are complete rewritings of history, right? Like the Crusades. It's like, well, what's the reason for the Crusades? What compelled this? Muslim invasions of Spain. They're fighting back Muslim aggressors.
Now, Aaron Chad says in the Philippines, they've been around for centuries. I don't think the argument was ever that this is something entirely new to Western America. It's the popularity of it. It's the explosive growth of it. It's the defense and redefining of these terms that's the issue. It's not that this is somehow new. I think you're missing the point here.
Yeah, like homosexuals have been around for a long time. It usually averages 1 to 3% of the population, not the current numbers that are being reported in the surveys, in which an entire society is gaslighting kids into thinking being transgender or bisexual is cool.
You have kids today that are growing up thinking that it's like being emo or into hair metal. Like, I mean, it's just part of the culture. They've been taught that that's what it, and they don't know the dangers of going into that lifestyle, the emotional, mental, the strain. They don't have a clue. But it's being presented to children like it's just another group you can be a part of. It's just another thing. And you know, they've done these they've done these videos where, like, you know, I'm sure everybody's seen it by now. It's kind of trending. You know, this guy sets down $10,000 in cash and he goes, "I've got 10 grand for you, or these 3 Oreos." And the kid's like, yoink, takes the 3 Oreos, and they're like, and we're wanting to let them determine when they go on hormone blockers and all the other stuff. Like, that's not cool. You know, like this is abuse. Like that's not good. We're supposed to protect children because they can't make good choices like this. There's a reason why they have to be 18 at least to be able to sign up for selective service and, you know, join the service. I mean, it's like you have to be 21 to drink alcohol and smoke cigarettes in most states, but you want hormone blockers at, you know, 6 years old.
Yeah,
Well,
the funny thing is the military doesn't want people past 30 years old because those are people who are not going to charge machine guns. It takes younger cultures and generations to be manipulated into doing these life-defying acts of bravery. Once you're older, you're more stubborn.
I'm 45. They don't
more
want
for
me.
yourself.
No, they don't want me with my knees, my feet, my gout. Like, no, the military would take one look at me and be like, "All right, you know, you can lick envelopes, you know, you can peel potatoes." Like, you know, they don't want me, man. No, you're right. They want guys that they can condition, that they can train, that have
18 to 25-year-olds. They're just not mentally developed yet.
Yeah, and that's not an assault on our servicemen and women. We appreciate them. It's just we're talking about, like, they haven't had a lot of life experiences and developed yet.
Even just an hour ago, that was not the debate topic. So,
To be fair, that is a question, yeah, regarding to the debate. But yeah, we will carry on the questions there.
Given that this clearly wasn't the topic and you've been bodied on the issue before, including by Nominal Naomi a year ago, why not
that
get
dude got
beaten
wrecked
on a new topic instead?
Okay, so first of all, I literally went through and said these people have no justification for their beliefs at all. Could have gone after that. I went on to further explain, here's how I can demonstrate that they have no justification for any of their claims. Here's how I can demonstrate they don't have truth on their side. Because I can show an example in real time of these people completely and totally lying to you. Totally lying to you. And so many of you in the audience are like, how dare you? I'm not saying anything incorrect here. You're being lied to. I'm sorry.
They're the ones lying.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Oh, we got church split in the audience. Hey, guys.
Make sure that you're speaking into the mic, or otherwise the online.
He ditched out on his own live stream to join ours.
Well, this is where the cool kids hang out.
That's not how myself or the
This
commenters.
is where you go if you want to get
Nominal Naomi got obliterated on that topic. And if you'd like the video evidence, I've got 7 times the views that Nominal Naomi had, and Nominal Naomi backed out of a second debate with me. Just letting you know.
Right. So they're
Just
trying to
letting you know.
gaslight. So what happens is they go into these debates and then they come out saying, oh, we were the winners in that debate. The atheists are going to come out of this debate saying Matt Dillahunty was the winner. Look at his indignation, things like that. It's like they're just delusional people. Their mind can't see the reality of a situation. This was a massive loss, big L for Dillahunty.
Yeah, I think Andrew definitely took it.
So they're retconning him right now about a prior debate in which they say that he lost. He's like, I didn't lose that debate. You can look at the statistics. Statistically, I won. He's proud of that debate. He's proud of the debate. The person sharing the debate is the person who won the debate. Okay, that's the general rule.
That's it. I was in a debate. I'm not going to say the name of the individual. I don't need to give him any more airtime. And the guy hears me say, I believe X. And he turns around and goes, Warren doesn't believe X. You know, I would say, I believe Y. And he'd say, Warren doesn't believe Y. And it was like there was no engagement. And then his argument was just horrendous. And so I'm like, hey, look at what he said. Look at this debate. Look at what he did. And yet to this day, people from that theological camp that he's in will come in and go like, oh man, he wrecked you. And I'm like, you did not listen. You did not listen to the debate. Like you did not listen to the debate. But you'll find dogmatics are like that in any camp, right? There are groups doesn't matter how well anybody performs. They're just dogmatic because they're not there to defend the substance of the debate, but the ideology that individual represents. And so that's what you're seeing with the Dillahunty guys right now is they're coming in defending what he represents, not necessarily the arguments that he made.
The tell is who distributes it, who sends it to people. I support the debates I've been into. I'll send them to people. I'll say, go watch this debate. I'm proud of my debates, and I send them there. I think I won all my debates, and so I'll promote them. People who want to sweep debates under the rugs, they're like, oh man, I don't really do very good on that debate, even though people are claiming they won. But if they're not sending it to their friends, they didn't win.
Well, hey, church split. At least you don't have to worry about possibly getting canceled. You know, like this is a difficult topic to handle in today's age. So I don't know how long Idol Killer will be around after this debate.
Yeah.
No, actually, I wasn't referring to the Matt Slick debate there. Awesome Blossom, Bloomin' Onion. But they're saying that the Black Sheep guys need to get together for another good debate review. We really do. But yeah, let me continue on with
Any
this.
other questions from anybody in the chat or our audience here at the chat? See, I'm still in moderation mode. My brain's gotten fried from all the traveling, and that just happened. So that's a little bit exciting, isn't it? Well, we are sorry, of course, that things didn't go to plan. Not sure if anybody's got some questions in the live chat or if anybody wants to come forward for more questions. But if not, then we'll wrap it up, I think, at this point. If you had anything else you want to say there, James? Well, you do have the poll. We do have the poll. That is correct.
So go ahead, Ryan.
Okay. All right.
So if you're no longer neutral, but you
Last time, then we'll know. Oh, you want the mic? No.
Delusional. And I get how that's like basic. You can see why, as a fellow Christian,
Here we go.
calling people lunatics, it doesn't seem productive. So for me as a Christian, like I have to say that I trusted you as a fellow Christian. And when you call people lunatics, you can see why I'm kind of like, okay, this is novel. Now, is it true that online?
So there's a principle called don't punch right. And what you're seeing here is Christian gatekeeping, trying to one party trying to take someone who's actually doing something and being productive and trying to shut them down. And this is why conservatives, right wing, has been losing culturally for decades, is because you'll never see a leftist gatekeep. You won't see trans people throw pedophiles out of the movement. You won't see leftists throw communists out of the movement. You'll see right wingers all the time like, oh, that person takes this one stance over here. Let's cancel them. Let's ostracize them. Let's disfellowship them. Throw them all the way. They punch right all the time. It's a losing cultural strategy. And so these soft-willed Christians gatekeeping, it's not productive. It's not helpful for the movement. You've been losing the cultural war, and we're seeing the results of 100 years, 200 years of you guys in control. It's led to declining Christianity.
It's cowardice. It's cowardice. In many cases, it's cowardice. Because I don't want the mob, and I'm having to face it with this broadcast myself, so I'm not excluding myself. I don't want the mob coming after me, but I have to at some point be able to communicate and get my ideas out there. But there's this fear that if you don't stand up and defend these people that you disagree with, that they're going to come after you, and it's really silly, because if you're afraid that they're going to come after you, you've already lost. But you're right. Andrew is here exposing the irrational, illogical, anti-scientific, non-philosophically robust claims of this worldview or this position. And Christians come in and go, but you said it was a lunatic position.
I didn't like your tone.
Your tone.
Your tone was made them sad. It made people are sad. You're turning people off of Christianity. I'm an expert at converting people. I've converted like maybe a person once. Never. No.
What happened? What happened to caring about truth? You will know the truth, and it will set you free. Like, hey, these are facts. Here's some issues that are problematic for this position. And if you actually reject truth, that is by definition something that a lunatic would do, or a lunatic type view. So it's like, why would you not say rejecting truth is crazy? And you go, oh, that's offensive. No,
Yes.
you're crazy. You're crazy. You're crazy. You're offended that I'm saying that we need to be committed to truth. Like, what the heck?
Also, imagine being a grown man on the internet complaining about another man's tone. It's like, what? Imagine being in that mindset. Like what led you in your life to this position where you thought that this was something that should be acceptable or commendable or honorable and not embarrassing?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's silly. As a Christian, I was really looking to you, Andrew, to come in here as a non-Christian apologist and defend my view as gently and softly and with as smooth words as like butter. And you just it's great being a dad, isn't it?
Sometimes there are, you could say, I don't want to paint with broad brushstrokes. There are some pockets of secular people that might say like, oh, Christians are delusional. And I get how that's like basically them calling them lunatics. I'm not painting with broad brushstrokes. That's pockets of secular people. So, but in either case, I think we both agree, like calling someone a lunatic or calling them delusional, whatever it is.
I recall correctly, Dillahunty, did he make a Sky Daddy comment in his original statement and stuff like that? It's like,
I think Andrew said, I'll concede, the worst caricature of my view that he can, that Christianity is just belief in a Sky Daddy. So I think Andrew was the one that brought it up, but I think he was saying like, let's just give them everything.
Right. All right.
It is like, it's not fruitful. It's, you know what I mean? It's not edifying. It's not spiritually like encouraging someone or building them up. So for me as a Christian, I'm just like, why, Andrew?
Because it's true, James.
I can understand if you come.
That's why, because it's true.
But
that's why.
So, but like I said, in terms of the barbed approach, though, is that there are some Christians that have conservative theology, including me, that will come on and, they'll state what they believe, but they won't go further to offend. I mean, for example, like the gospel, like we know what that means. Like this idea that Jesus died on the cross for people, that's already offensive. And so like, which I don't mind. You know, if people are
Right.
offended by that, I don't mind.
They
as a
can
Christian,
take
but
all
the
of our
point is-
symbols, destroy them, take them out of everywhere. They can go online. They can deface our Lord. They can do any horrible thing to us that they can possibly imagine. But lo and behold, we tell the truth. Why? I mean, why allow us to do that? Why allow us to do that? That's where we should draw the line.
I've said my piece. You do have objections from online. So some of these might be for Matt, in which case Matt obviously is not here to respond. So I'm not going to read if it's for Matt, because I don't want to read something he can't respond to.
And this is a completely different context than had Matt gone through the debate, responded to Andrew's points. Andrew then would have rebutted those responses and refutations, and they would have had a lively exchange of ideas, going through the Q&A, going through their closing statements, and then we come in and we go, you know, like, you were overly hostile throughout the entirety of the debate. You were a jerk. Your tone was off. That was uncalled for, right? Like that we could actually have a conversation like that, perhaps, where you're saying, look, this other guy is trying to have a respectful debate with you, and you're attacking him personally when you need to keep it in the realm of ideas. That we could understand that. But you had an idea where he was giving examples of the failing of the secular humanistic worldview. Matt clutching his pearls and getting angry and running out the building rather than actually having to address those objections, and then insulting Andrew on the way out, while Andrew then launches a verbal insult of his own. And then you go, but it's the tone. It's the tone. And you're like, dude, this thing became a dumpster fire when Andrew made his last few minute closing statements of his opening statement. It became a dumpster fire where you see Dillahunty resigning himself to running, and he goes, I'm going to feign, you know, this victimhood, and I'm out of here. And it became a dumpster fire. So I don't think that we're, you know, in a realm where we can't come in and go, you know, like, I think a little bit of pushback here is appropriate. But I don't know. I'll keep playing this.
This one is from, let's see. Actually, a lot of these are more of these.
So we got a guy in the comments saying you can't tell difference between men and women. Men have more muscle mass. The same weighted man as a female is going to have a lot more strength. They have more blood in their body. My wife's always cold. Men same size as women will have more blood in their body, keeping them warmer. There's more testosterone. People who try to do transgender stuff have to pump themselves, trying to mimic the amount of testosterone men naturally have. There's objective biological differences between men and women. When they find a skeleton, they know if it's a man or a woman, right? So you can fool some people some of the time. I went to Cambodia, Thailand, and Malaysia, and yeah, there's ladyboys and weird American sex tourists everywhere. And is it a boy? Is it a girl? You don't know. But I'll tell you what, you look at their bone structure, you'll be able to tell.
Yeah. And like you're seeing comments here in the, here you go. Men are ugly. Women are beautiful.
Right. And you'll see that
Generally.
on Twitter. They'll be like, they'll post a selfie and say, people can't tell the difference. And you're like, oh, I don't believe you.
ma'am, your 5 o'clock shadow showing.
It's like, it's ma'am.
Now, yeah, Froggy says the guy's a con artist, and do we think he's a serious Christian? Froggy, you're late to the show, bro. We've already said he's not a Christian apologist. He's a political commentator who happens to be Christian, either Eastern Orthodox or Roman Catholic. So he's approaching this from a completely different perspective. He's not coming
doing a
in
better job than like
yeah. He's not towing the Christian apologetics line. He comes in and he's just like, I'm going to stick to the ideas, you know. And I think he did a pretty good job.
Take him to task is what he's going to do.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Christ would be proud of your behavior tonight?
I think that anybody, anybody
Oh, can you hit
who
pause real
values
quick? And like people are so ignorant of the historical Jesus, all the stories and the things that he did within the New Testament. It's like they got some like Hollywood perception of him where he's going around and patting babies and like hugging people and saying, "Everyone live your own life." That is not Jesus. Was pretty like tooth and nail. He insult people at a drop of a hat, unprovoked. He'd go in and offend people. He wouldn't even clarify. He would just offend all their sensibilities, uproot things, and not explain himself and leave. It's like he's overturning tables with whips. He's like literally, in order to overturn a money
Even-
changer's table, you have to whip someone.
Even their favorite example where the woman caught in adultery is brought before him, and they go, "Look, he said, whoever's without sin cast the first stone." Look, he defended her. He told her, "Go and sin no more." He called her a sinner.
Right.
Called her out. He showed her mercy. He showed her love and compassion, and he called out the sin. He spoke truth to this woman in her circumstance, and he called her out, and he told her to go and sin no more. And yet modern Christian Jesus would just be like, "That's not a sin. That's the way that you were made. Let's celebrate it." Yeah.
Adultery is great because your husband was probably terrible, and so it's okay to find love with another man.
Oh my gosh, dude! Don't get me started on.
Okay.
Yeah, come on, man. I may have to go get the whistle pig out and before I can start talking about that.
truth at all of any kind would not have a single dispute with what I said, which is just objective reality. Descriptive, objective. It's no different than me saying the paint's white. Like, do you think Jesus Christ would be okay with you saying the paint's white? Yeah, dude, it's just objectively true.
But if you're like a prick about it, I mean.
And so just his confidence in answering this with such force is so rhetorically effective. The audience is just dumbfounded. They just don't know how to deal with it because they're basically being mocked for their position that Jesus would have offense at anything he said tonight, and he's basically taken to the task. And this is not their emotional gotcha that they think it was going to be. It's reversed on them. That it was supposed to be this emotional appeal, like, "Oh, Jesus would be nice to me, and you should be nicer to me, like Jesus would be." And like, it's whining. It's whining. They're up there whining and complaining. "Please treat me better," and he's not falling for it.
No.
It's so fantastic.
I started so it started as me being the prick. I didn't call anybody a jackass. I didn't personally insult Dillahunty. Didn't say a word about anything about Dillahunty related at all. There was nothing. Yeah.
Hi, Andrew. This
Hello.
is less of a question and more of a statement as a follow-up to what his question was.
I don't know if you guys can pick up on the tone.
Yeah, the tone. It's obvious what's
This
coming.
is more of a statement than
these
a question.
people.
Like the tone, man. This guy's upset.
Sure to
I
have
can't
loads
help.
of unrighteous
Sorry.
indignation.
I'm trying to ask.
Sorry,
a question.
I'm
me the
trying
most
to talk.
Sorry.
Show
I'm
me
trying to
the
ask a
respect.
question.
Make sure it seeds
So,
and drips.
I do remember Jesus saying something like, "The least you do to my people, you do to me."
Mm-hmm. So I told him the truth then.
He's laughing at this
Oh,
guy.
look at the smile.
This
Look
guy
at
is
the
so
smile.
indignant. He's like,
Dude,
you need to
Andrew.
justify my indignance. Yeah,
Andrew,
it's so
you're
terrible.
brash, you're crass, and I love you for
You
it.
should not. It is, if a Christian is treating these people with this much disingenuity, with any ounce of respect, that's a losing proposition. These people are not genuine, good-willed actors. They're trying to weaponize your compassion. They don't care about truth. They're just trying to shut you down. And so if you're reacting any other way than laughing at them, you're doing it wrong.
That's true.
That's what Jesus would be bad at.
So I am curious on your perspective of how far is too far. Like, for example, like I go to a lot of like comic conventions and stuff, and I all the time I always see like a group of Christians always saying, you guys are worshiping idolatry, y'all are going to hell. And I myself am pretty religious, but I just go there. for
Walk
fun.
away.
Yeah, like, I
Well,
mean, if we here in Atlanta, we've got Dragon Con, and you'll go up there and you'll see stormtroopers. You'll go up there, you'll see different anime characters. You'll see Deadpool by the dozens. And
yeah,
I don't
because
think
it's one suit and it's real cheap.
I don't think I've ever seen Christians protesting Comic-Con. I'm not. I mean, Dragon. I'm not
Ruben
saying
Israel.
it doesn't happen.
Ruben Israel would do it all the time. He'd go there, big signs, repent. And Ruben Israel just died, a good
Yeah,
street
yeah.
preacher. But all his footage was fantastic. Here's the thing: there's a tweet out there that says, "I don't get how online bullying is a thing. Just turn off your computer. Like, just are words going to hurt you guys? Just walk away if you don't like it." It's like, I'm not going to criticize these street preachers who are actually getting people to repent. There's people who come to them and they say, "Oh, I actually am sinful. I'm going to repent." And there's all these testimonials. They're actually doing stuff. I might not agree with these people 100% theologically, but they're doing the Lord's work, and they're doing more than nothing, which is what this guy who's talking is probably doing nothing.
About 2004, we went to the big what is it? It's the mountain here in Atlanta where they've got a relief carved of like the Confederate soldiers, and they'll do like a firework display. It's a Southern thing. Like, everybody goes there. It's not a rally or anything, but it's what do they call this? I can't remember. But they have like a train that'll go around. They have like little towns, like little mock villages where you can go and buy like cotton candy and stuff. And you'll lay out in the grass and you'll watch like a laser light show and fireworks. In about 2004, I went there with my family, and there was a street preacher there calling out women for being immodestly dressed. And I'll just say a couple of family members, I'll leave it at this. A couple of my family members were targeted by the street preacher, and they became very upset. And I was listening to the street preacher, and I was looking over, and I was like, he's got a point. I was like, the guy has a point. I can't say that because they're my ride home. But I'm like, he's got a point. And I listened to him. I don't know if Jesse Morrell has ever been out here, but I would swear it had the same kind of energy. But I was listening to him, and I'm like looking at them, and I'm like, yeah, they could dress a little more modestly.
Would you? I mean, they may or may not, by their perspective, they're telling the truth, but many others might not believe that. But I guess the question is, how far is too far? Like, would you?
Well, I think that was just walking over to him and saying, "Do you think a rock is a rock and a tree is too far?" I don't think that's too far. I think that walking over to him, maybe, and making threats or trying to do horrifying things to them, I think that's too far. But I think asking a basic question or saying something that's descriptively true, like thing X is thing X and thing Y is not thing X, I think that's fine. Why would they even get upset about it?
Yeah, but I mean, it's like going out of your way. I mean, for some people, it's just a hobby, creating something and just enjoying the time, and then having someone on a megaphone just saying, "You guys are all going to hell because y'all are dressing up." I mean, if that's the case, everyone who dresses up for Halloween would go to hell. I mean, people who dress up as Santa Claus during Christmas time, they should go to hell.
And the pretend inside your scenario for a second that you disagree with these people. And so they get a representative for them. One of the best.
So he's drawing it back to the debate. He's bringing it back to this situation because, like, am I supposed to be here defending those people? Maybe they have a good reason for what they believe. It's like, what are we doing here? What's happening? So he just takes the question and he just kind of answers it to draw him back to the current situation, to highlight his win in the debate and how little intellectual integrity Dillahunty actually has. It's a fantastic strategy.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing of like, are you upset because people are furries, or are you upset because they're stormtroopers? I don't know where that question even came from, but it'll be interesting to see him bring it back.
For their ideology, they possibly could. And then they set up some kind of like area where that representative and then a representative from the other belief were able to go. And there was like some guy who was like moderating it. And then both of them could hash it out and determine who was right. Like, what if we had that? What if we had a situation like that? But then still somebody could become so offended, right, just by a claim against their truth value that they run off. Why would you believe them? Why would you believe them?
Integrity.
What about it is integrity to lie to people? What's integral about that?
You just lied.
About?
He listed it right there. The 9-year-old thing that you commented.
Oh no!
on.
Would you like to see the video?
Yeah, I'd love to.
I have
Please
it
send me the
queued
link.
right here. Okay, what did he say?
He made the argument that he would not be in support. Sorry.
Come on over, buddy. Come on over.
He very plainly stated, I think it was with Hikikachu, is that right? Yeah.
Mhm.
He was in a discussion with Hikikachu where Hikikachu goes on and says, you said something that he clearly didn't say. He was making the claim that you have claimed that it's perfectly fine for 9-year-olds to hook up. This was not the case.
So
not even close.
This was in the debate with Daniel where he got up and got in Daniel's face, or kind of did.
Also, sorry to interrupt, but out of the two of them, between Daniel and Dillahunty, who do you reckon is more in favor of fucking kids?
I have no idea. I don't pay attention to Daniel, but in that particular debate, to respond, here's what actually happened. And I'll tell you what, if I'm wrong about this, I will personally send you $50. Personally. Here's what actually happened. What actually happened was he said, yes or no, Matt? Yes or no, Matt? Is it okay? Or would you make laws? Sorry, he says, would you make laws? Would you make a law saying 9-year-olds couldn't have sex with each other? By the way, that's what I referenced in here too. Would you make a law saying 9-year-olds can't have sex with each other? And he said, if I have to do the yes or no thing, then no, I wouldn't make that law. That's what was referenced. That was what was referenced. What was the follow-up? Tell me.
He said that he didn't support 9-year-olds having sex, but even you said a similar thing when you were talking with Matt. You said you would hold the parents negligent
and the children.
So you would put 9.
I just want to draw attention. This lady is suffering. I mean, she is not having a good time right now.
She did not know what she got into when she got stepped into that room today. She's like, what am I doing here? What is happening?
I think she was waiting for what's that comedy skit where the 3 best friends are always like pranking each other? Impractical Jokers. I think she's waiting for one of the Impractical Jokers to come out because
maybe she's there with her boyfriend. He's like, let's go to this thing, and then she gets there. She's like, what?
This is not the romantic dinner I thought it was going to be.
Why did you bring me here?
So she does not look happy at all.
So I do have some sympathy for a weird degenerate in blue shirt man. Yeah, not everything that is immoral should be illegal, and vice versa. And so speed limits. Yeah, speed limits probably there should be a law about speed limits. I think it's immoral to violate the speed limit? No, I think it's immoral to drive recklessly in such a way that you cause a homicide. And so legality and morality have overlap, but they're not one and the same.
Yeah.
Jail.
Wouldn't put him in jail.
Then you don't hold them criminally responsible as 9-year-olds. So you don't support criminal laws for 9-year-olds.
What you're saying here is not whether or not. And by the way, you can have a criminal law where nobody goes to jail. What are you talking about?
Do you think even under Christian ethics?
No. Respond to my first. Stop. I've answered your questions. Answer one of mine. Do you have to go to jail when you're held criminally liable for something?
We do not. No, you do not.
No,
you do not.
No.
But we do not hold children criminally liable, even under Christian ethics. I think it's 13 years old.
So it passes
correct?
over to the parents. The parents go to prison for negligible, for being negligible.
Even you agree with Matt that you would not hold the children themselves criminally liable.
Well, if you can show me the clip of Matt saying the parents should go to jail for the kids having the sex, I'd love to hear it.
He was not asked that question.
Yeah, but what do you think he would say if he was?
I don't know.
Right. Well,
You'd have to ask
he
him.
could have asked. He could have responded.
He said he doesn't support it.
He says, you took me out of context. Why didn't he contextualize it? We could have got into it.
And I may agree with you that maybe the parents should be held responsible for what the kids do.
Why get mad at me? I didn't leave the debate.
Well, you went
I
off
knew what I was doing.
They keep claiming it's off topic. It's not off topic for the debate.
First of all, I was correct about what he said. I was correct about what he said. That's what he said in that exchange. Later, you say
you were correct.
yes, I was correct.
Yeah. So if we're gonna keep having back and forth, we're gonna have to come on up.
We just had this discussion with you,
Mhm.
and you maintain that you're correct.
Not only am I
that you
correct,
accurately
but
represented
unabashedly
what
I'm
Dillahunty
correct.
said,
Yes.
and that it was a good idea to
Mhm.
make that misrepresentation, not only in front
It
of
wasn't a
Dillahunty, but also in front of
misrepresentation.
an
It wasn't a
audience.
misrepresentation. That's his exact words. You say clarified later, but even the clarification does not get to the heart
His
of
exact
what I
words, huh?
responded to, which is the negligence that you would hold the parents to. If you wouldn't make a law saying
Wait,
9-year-olds
so if you
can't
and
do this,
Dillahunty agree,
how do you know we
yeah.
agree?
it sounds like you do.
Well, okay,
because you're sounding
tell
like,
us,
oh, the
or
parents should
tell
help
the
be held
audience how we
accountable.
agree.
You just made the claim
hmm
that the parents should be held accountable, right?
Sure.
Dillahunty would believe. I can only
How do we
assume,
know he's not
right?
here?
Just based on past comments.
Oh, based on past
Based
comments.
upon what was said
Nah,
at the
you
time,
wouldn't.
I would suspect, can't speak on his behalf,
These
but would
these
suspect that he
people
would make
push
the
for
claim
lowering
that-
age of consent all
Yeah,
the time.
Yeah,
It's
and it's what they're doing is they're coming in and they're saying, "Oh, he would have affirmed this," but they don't have any basis for saying that. It's possible he would have affirmed it, but it's just as possible he would not have. But they're
yeah,
here. They're
it
here.
is possible he would have just lied about affirming it because
That's true
of
too. Yeah, that's true too.
perspectives.
Yeah, people are not always honest in debates, especially on sensitive topics like that. But you'll see, like the audience are like they're coming in defending him, saying, "Oh, he would have," or "He does," and it's not based in reality. So they're identifying as Matt Dillahunty right now, and they're given this answer as though it's actually his position. And I don't think they're being very honest right now either.
Parents should be held accountable if there's some sort of negligence.
I
that
can't
allows
argue
that
with
to
what you
happen, right?
suspect, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
I could
That's
have
it.
argued with his actual position, but he left. So
What do you think his actual position
I think
was
that he
then?
would say no, that he would not actually criminalize the parents, even for 2 consenting 9-year-olds to have sex. That's what I believe he would say.
Okay.
If
Since-
two 9-year-olds, I think in his worldview, were to do that deed, I do not think that he would hold the parents criminally responsible for that. No, I don't think he would.
He wouldn't think it's a moral violation.
No.
I cannot possibly fathom why you would bring it up at all.
Because he said
if
it.
that was your contention, because that is so far from a big issue that might have to do with secular humanism.
Well, next time you can do the debate.
Given that that seems to have some particulars around with it.
It's the do nothings criticizing the people who are actually doing things. It's you'll find it whatever field you're in business, you're in construction, the do nothings will sit there and complain, oh, you should have done this, you should have done. It's like you're sitting around doing nothing and I'm actually doing something. It's like, we don't care. We don't listen to do nothings.
Again, should the parents be held responsible? To what extent were the parents involved, and so forth? Because muddy.
It's not muddy.
I'm trying to figure out why exactly it is that you would bring it up at all, except for the express purpose of misrepresentation.
What did Christian
Because I don't
nationalism
think-
have to do with the debate then?
I'm sorry?
What did Christian nationalism have to do with the debate then?
Christian nationalism.
Yeah, he brought up Christian nationalism and went off about a congressman, or I'm sorry, someone who's going to be the Speaker of the House. He went off on that for 5 minutes.
Yeah, because this is an ethic that's being brought forward.
Oh,
by people who
I
consider
see.
got him.
So
He got him
I
dead
see.
to
So if
rights.
you have some different ethics for that, which I know that you don't.
They're liars.
You have some.
No, they're not being honest. They're
These
not
people-
using equal weights and measures. They're being dishonest here.
They are liars. They're disingenuous. They're bad actors. He is absolutely correct to treat them like this. Treat them with utter contempt, to laugh at them, publicly humiliate them, show the world this is what needs to be done to people like this. They have no compunction about lying. They will lie and think nothing of it.
That's it.
Different ethics from that system. Maybe you can present them to
Like
us.
I just did, and explained emphatically that we value truth, and that I don't believe that under his system they do.
It
He
sounds like
he
your
brought up as an
truth-
example an institution or the formings of an institution, Christian nationalism, to criticize as an argument, as an example of something he would be contrary against. I brought up similar examples the other direction. I didn't flee when he criticized Christian nationalism. I didn't run out of the room when he criticized my worldview. I didn't do any of those things.
I'm trying to figure out how your idea of truth is different from your opinion backed up by an all-powerful friend who knows everything. And
I granted that even if my opinion was nothing more than me appealing to Sky Daddy, then it's just subjective relativism and is every bit as valid as his.
Oh, dude.
Under secular humanism, you have no basis to condemn a Christian ethno-nation fascist state that cracks down on everything non-Christian, right? There's nothing that says a secular-based society is better than a Christian society if secularism is true. There's no basis for that.
No.
And so that's why he was completely safe and won the debate just before it even started by just granting secularism is true. Because oh, it's so funny. Dillahunty had no idea what he was getting
No,
into.
I think he was completely blindsided by this and had no idea.
His mind broke. His mind broke.
I want to see that journal. I want to know what he was writing. I want to see those little notes he was scribbling. That's what I'm curious. I'm curious what his thoughts were as this was going. Like, respond to this point. Respond to this point. What the heck am I going to do with this? I don't like where this is going. I'm going to draw sailboats and tornadoes, and I'm going to get out of here.
Your moral system.
So Alana asks, is that guy the Christian? Yeah, I think he's either Roman Catholic or Eastern Orthodox. He's not, Alana. He is not a Christian apologist, and he admits this quite adamantly on his program. He's more of a political guy. So he has Christian beliefs, but he's not coming in towing the typical Christian apologist line. You know, he's dropping swear words, and he smokes like a sailor, and he's got this snark that just, you know, it's like boom, 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 boom. But he's
got some charisma.
He's got the charisma, and he's on point. So he's a political commentator, like Roddy says. He's a political commentator that is a Christian. So it's a little bit of a different approach than maybe some of the other guys that Dillahunty has debated from the position of faith.
System isn't subjective. It isn't objective.
Right.
It is dependent upon command.
Right, but let us assume for a second that I grant you that I'm just living under a delusion. And the delusion is that I believe in a sky fairy, and I'm totally delusional about the entire thing. If that's true, even if that's true, then still from a subjective relativist position, it's just as valid as their position. It's just as valid. So if it's just as valid and I just say something to him like, well, I don't believe in that shit, just based on whatever my own opinion is, how's it less valid than his?
Oh, he's got dead to rights. He's got
the funny thing is, they're going to say you're delusional, you believe in a sky daddy, and he's going to say you're delusional, you believe men become women. Like, he's leveled the playing field with this argument. He's just completely leveled it. And now what do they do with that? They tear their clothes, they cover themselves in sackcloth and ash. Like,
you are this big list of bad names I wrote out, and you're all of them. It's just the worst. We're gonna find where you work, and we're gonna destroy your life. Yeah. Oh, he works on a debate channel. Okay.
Activity and objectivity are not operating in the same way as taking divine command as the basis of your information.
Yeah, I granted that already.
And
yeah, I granted it.
I'm not sure how it is you can claim that there's some sort of...
Let's pretend that I made up an entire ethical system and just said there was a God I didn't even believe in.
Someone did.
Let's just say that, okay? Let's just say that that's true. It's just as valid as whatever relativistic bullshit this guy comes up with. Same, just as
I'd love
valid.
to see some evidence for you to back up that your system is just as valid as somebody who's basing their ethics or their information
kind of
on objectivity. Or even
what kind of empirical evidence do you think we could demonstrate? Like, could we maybe measure? Could we maybe measure like the objective truth of things? Like, would we start there? Would we start with what we think might be true?
We could.
We could.
You won't.
I did.
I don't think so.
I did. I granted his worldview and acted as though I was a secular humanist who just decided that I believed in these views because I thought they made more sense.
Beneficial versus valid. You're saying your view is valid, but is it beneficial? Is it useful? Does it have utility?
Yes, I think it's maximum utility to not lie to people. I think that has the maximum utility. I think it has maximum utility not to hold people emotionally hostage and tell them that we will self-terminate if you don't validate an identity you know is a lie. That is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, he's bringing it back to the trans weaponizing compassion thing. It's like, conform your entire life around us, do everything we say, or else we'll kill ourselves. The Gandhi strategy. It's the Gandhi strategy.
Yep. Now, hey, Jamie's a friend of mine. He says, "May I make a pro-trans argument?" I mean, you go for it. Go for it. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but go for it.
Do you have positive relationships with your family members? Like, I'm just asking, like, do you have people that love you in your life?
Right. So
your worldview is not good for human flourishing, and it's illogical, and it's based on deception. And their response is, "Do people like you?"
So it's projection, actually. These people come from broken families, single mother households, where they've been molested as kids a lot of times, and it's projection. And if someone is living a normal life, they just can't comprehend that. If they just have a wife and kids, and they go to church and they want to make do, they always make these claims. It's like, oh, you must be secretly gay. You must secretly like dudes over here. It's like, what are you doing here? So implicitly you're saying whatever you're criticizing is a negative thing, right? If he had a broken family, that's a negative thing, and that apparently negatively impacts him. What's pro-family? Christianity or secularism? Christianity is the pro-family position. They're implicitly admitting it in their dig against him. It's like when the leftists call people a Christian, "Oh, you must be a homosexual." It's like, you're saying it like it's a bad thing. Do you think it's a bad thing? Because it sounds like you inherently believe it's a bad thing, and that's why this you think is a dig against me.
Now here we've got Jamie came in with his argument here. He says, premise 1, mixed gendered humans exist. Nobody's going to dispute that. Well, at least they identify that way. They identify that way. That's how I took it. Premise 2, so I may just disagree with your entire first premise, but I'll assume it in the most charitable light. Premise 2, after the fall, things are other than originally intended. Okay. Premise 3, God put souls into bodies. Premise 4, souls could be gendered before being put into bodies.
Right. The thing is, though, that when you look biologically, men have more testosterone than women, which causes people to act in different ways. And these are identifiable patterns. And so you could draw categories, even if categories overlap, you could still say these are wolves, these are domestic dogs, even though there might be a wolf the size of a dog, right? Something like that. And so just the way we categorize things, that transgenderism's not a thing. We got men and we got women, and there might be some sort of attributes in which there's overlap or confusion, but categories work with the distinctions, right?
Well, it's like you have a musical artist who can sit down and play a piano, and you have a musical artist that can sit down and play the violin. They're not the same. They're not the same. So you can have an artist, right, like a soul, play the piano. That's a pianist. You can have a soul, that's the artist, play the violin. That's a violinist. Violinists are not pianists. That's a crude analogy, but okay. But he's saying the conclusion is a man's soul could be born into a woman's body.
It's weird because our physical makeup, our DNA, our genetics have a lot to do with how we act and how we think, right? And so, like if there's a high aggression man having children with a high aggression woman, the children will be high aggression. A lot of our behavior is hard coded in our genetics rather than some sort of mystical soul that is put into bodies. Maybe it turns out that souls are gender neutral, and biology is the determining factor of how we all act.
There's a lot of presuppositions going on here with what they mean by soul and then gendering the soul. So that's doing a lot of your heavy lifting here. So I think the argument fails. And he says he doesn't actually agree with the argument. He just wanted to put one out. He doesnn't believe in dualism. But anyway, we'll get back to this.
Biology remains undefeated.
Okay. Well, then I can understand your worldview better. now.
It's a
Thank
sad.
you.
It's a sad tale.
Well, we got another. Oh,
I just will note that when we took the second vote, at least one person that voted for the Christianity worldview
Mhm.
did not vote the second time.
Oh, well, then I guess in the opinion of the biased people in the room, then that means I lose then.
Oh, it's so funny.
Wow.
It is so funny.
Because I
So-
stormed out. I got up and ran out. I fled the debate.
Pause. real
I was
quick.
unwilling.
Yeah.
That's the lukewarm Christian. So there's someone in the room who's the lukewarm Christian voting for Christianity, and now he's punching right. And he's like, "Oh, this guy was mean. I didn't like him, so I'm not going to vote for him again." These people are cancer. They're cancer. They're doing more harm to Christianity than good.
No, it was an interesting opening. I guess we can't call this a debate. It's not. Is it really even a debate review? It's like we're comparing opening statements and then the Q&A after, and
The
then
Q&A is the debate.
Yeah, the Q&A really is the debate. This should be called Andrew Wilson takes on all comers, except Matt Dillahunty, who fled.
Including the host.
including the host. That's right. Yeah. Now I like what they're doing over at Modern Day Debate, but man, come on. Like, I think he's trying to be.
He's trying to salvage the situation because the optics, he
Yeah.
needs to make sure that people still come to his channel, and then he's seen as a valid forum. And so he's in damage control mode, and I understand
he's
that.
trying. I think he's also likely trying to check his own bias so that he doesn't come across, so biased that people from opposing views don't want to appear on his channel. But it's funny that he comes in and he defends Dillahunty and confronts Andrew, and Dillahunty tweets out like, "I'm done. I'm never coming back to your platform." And like, don't concede ground. This is what we should learn. Don't concede. It's not going to work. But do you have anything to add to this before we call it a night, my friend?
I think it's good. I would like to meet Andrew sometime. He seems like a fun guy, and he seems like someone you could actually hang out with and talk to.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different approach here. Completely different. It's not like your pastor coming in and trying to debate this based off a particular approach. I like Andrew. I liked his style. I liked his personality. I like how he's just like, I told the truth.
Yeah, if all Christians were like him, America would be in a much better situation in regard to the percent of population who is Christian, with regard to morality, with regard to widespread cultural acceptance of Christian values.
Yeah,
we're in a losing war currently, and something's got to change if we care to capture society again and to bring back Christian values. And it's not doing the status quo. Status quo is not working.
No, something's got to change, and I think people need to get on fire and get principled and take principled stands. And we can do that, kindly. We can do that with, without any sort of violence or anything like that. We're in the realm of ideas. It really shouldn't even have to be said that this isn't, violence. But even in this age that we're in, disagreement is often portrayed as a violence, and so
there's a reason for it.
Yeah, they're trying to silence dissent, and that's when the voices need to stand up and be the loudest. But Chris, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks to Andrew for putting on a funny show. Thanks for making some good arguments here. Thank you for Dillahunty for walking out so that we actually reviewed this instead of it being kind of your normal, boring, typical debate. And thanks to all the audience for tuning in as well. And we'll catch you next time. Y'all have a good night. Take care.
only way to get there was to float through the terrifying void between us.